And like they would have just stopped him, given him a ticket or whatever. But because I had like a bag of weed that I was just about to give to somebody, car had a bit of a smell, and they were like, "Well, what's that smell like?" Like I had like some coke in my pocket as well. They take everything and they put it onto the top of the car, like all the drugs and stuff that they find out, anything illegal, all the contraband. It's right there that everybody else in the public can see. And I had like a fucking small police officer sitting behind me or beside me. And this guy was just talking mad shit to me. He was just like, wait till you get inside. You know what they do to people like you? And I'm like, I think I'm good. Like, you know, like this is the worst that it can be. Yeah. Like, you don't need to talk any more shit to me. Like, you know.
Okay, man.
All right.
Let's start. So we met in the sauna.
We met in the sauna.
And in the sauna, I found out that you told me that you were once a drug dealer.
Yeah, for a portion of my life, I used to sell drugs.
And I think this is like really, really interesting. And on my podcast, I want to learn about different people, about different perspectives. It's about.
Well, I'm not here to endorse or say this is something you should do or it's a good thing.
No.
Well, no, we'll get into the morality side of it, I guess. But I don't. It's not a accepted thing, and there's a part of it that I remember when I was getting arrested, the judge made a comment about it, and it's like, you don't understand the harm that you can do, even if you don't think you are yourself doing a whole lot. There's a chain reaction to what you're doing, or whatever you buy has to have come from a place where some fucked up things are happening, like, you know?
Yeah.
So there is that side to it, but on the other hand, I argue that, like, there's a reason, like, the government has made these things illegal, and there are other things that do way more harm than drugs that are legal, and that is the morality issue that I always, whenever I've asked myself about it, like, you know, because I don't think drugs in itself are bad. You have countries where, like, say, Singapore and stuff, if you're caught with weed, you can be executed. So then you would think it's very bad to sell weed over there. But then you sell weed, well, you can buy it in a shop, like, you know, it's illegal. So I don't think it's the drug in itself that's the problem. It's how the government has kind of handled the usage and how people interact with it. So that's why the morality side of it, I don't think what I did was wrong. Legally, it wasn't correct, but that doesn't make something bad just because it's illegal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. We also have to go into the morality. And so back to we met in the sauna, and then I asked you if you are willing to talk, and you are. And so here we are. And if you, like, maybe to begin, maybe just if you want, just tell a little bit about your life. Like, where are you from?
I am originally Indian, but I grew up in Ireland for most of my life. When I was born, I lived in Oman till I was like 7, 8, and then I moved to Ireland, and I lived in Ireland for around 16 years, and then I've moved here, and I've been here now for like 3 and a bit.
So in Ireland, this was also where you're. Like,
Ireland is where I did everything, you know what I mean. It's where I grew up. It's where I would kind of identify myself. I would culturally identify myself as being Irish. Although as the years move on, I kind of lose the sort of cultural identity a bit.
You try to be a little bit with the microphone. Like, you can move it around however you want, so it's comfortable for you.
Yeah. Now that I've lived here, like, you know, I've had to change my accent down a bit because people don't. When I first came here, I was speaking really fast. I used a lot of slang, and sometimes people would find it hard to understand. So then I would just have to slow it down, go back to my roots in English, which was from watching cartoons and stuff, you know. So a more Americanized sort of way of speaking. But then when I get angry, excited, or whatever, the accent can come out. Or when I talk to other Irish people, then the accent just get pulled out of me, almost, you know. But yeah, Ireland is where everything kind of happened.
So how did it start? Like, if it's fine for you, we can like go into the story a little bit in the beginning, and then
I think it started with like I smoked weed when I was 16, and I was like, man, this shit is great. This is fantastic. but it was hella expensive, so I wouldn't have. I think I've always had like a very compulsive, like personality, and growing up, I didn't grow up with a lot of friends, and because I moved around a bit and I didn't live in my original country, I didn't have a whole lot of friends or whatever. So there was always a big desire to connect with people, and like as I got older in like when I was like 16, 17, it kind of spilled out into the point like the people I was hanging out with probably weren't the super best in that sort of way. And so for me to kind of want to feel part of it, like, you know, I started smoking with them. And then because I started smoking and liking it a bit, I was like, well, I can't afford this, so I'm just going to buy some and then sell it. Like, because I know enough people that smoke it. It wouldn't be that hard to sell. And it wasn't really, like, you know. I think that's how I started. That was like at the very start of it. And then I think slowly I was just like, holy shit, you can make some money with this, like, you know what I mean? And then it started to take a little bit more of a, it started to become something as opposed to, like when I first started, I would buy like a quarter, which is like 7 grams. And then I would sell 5. I would make 125 euro. You sell a gram for 25.
25 euros.
Yeah.
Damn, in Germany it's much cheaper.
Yeah. Ireland is quite expensive for it. Like even, I remember when I was like years into it and I had regular customers, people would be spending like 400 euro a week buying weed.
Holy fuck.
A week, dude. That's like an ounce, like 28 grams. Like people would smoke crazy amounts. And I'm like, what the fuck? What kind of jobs do you have that you're buying all this? Like, you know?
Yeah.
But no, it's gotten a lot cheaper now, but Ireland was one of the most expensive.
25, damn, yeah, okay.
But yeah, so like I was doing that where I was just buying 7, selling it. I'd have my 2 grams to smoke, and I'd.
So you have like essentially for free the 2 grams.
Yeah. That's the only reason why I was doing it, you know. But then you have the dealers then that are like, because it started off I was buying from people that I kind of knew, and Ireland has this like a credit system. We call it TIC. So I take it off him and I pay him the next week or whatever for what I get. And then when I go to pay him, I just take another one. And then he'd be like, well, you know, you could just take, like, instead of taking 7, take 14. And then you don't need to see me next week. You can just see me in like 2 weeks and just give me the whole thing then. And I'd be like, all right, yeah, that's not that bad. And then that starts, you do that for a while and you double that.
Yeah.
And then you just, I don't know, instead of just buying for selling to smoke, you just have a lot of weed. So you end up smoking a lot more. And then you're also having to sell a lot more where you're not just left with weed, you also have cash left over from after paying things as well, like, you know.
This credit system.
Yeah.
This is like, this is internal to like the drug community. They have their own credit system.
Yeah, well, so the credit system kind of works only when you know the person. Like,
yeah.
And it's kind of, I thought it was just done in low level, but like most of it is through that sort of system. Like people don't just have like a lot kind of put up for capital, like to buy, like for weed, it was like, if you're just buying 1 kilo at the time, it would have been around like 7.5 or 8,000 euro.
Yeah.
So that's €8 a gram. And then when you're selling it for around 14 euro. So 7 grams would be about 100. You break that down, that's 14.
Yeah.
So you have quite a high profit margin in the overall, from like street dealing level, like, you know. The credit system kind of comes about because I think it kind of like the whole drug scene in Ireland wouldn't work without it. It's not saying that they don't do it, but like most of the people that I've encountered and done business with that aren't the end consumer, like they're getting to buy and sell on, they would have done credit at some point, kept on doing credit for the most part.
But how does it work if you fuck up? Like
just imagine what happens in any other in any other drug situation. You get fucked up. Like,
so they come to your house and say hello.
Yeah. So like I've had, so in my younger days, so like from when I was like 18 to 23, 24, I think till when I got arrested, I used to, nothing very bad has happened to me. I've been very close. Some guys kicked the shit out of me once. But this guy was a bit of a psychopath. He was a friend of a friend, Um, but this guy was just a bit unhinged. I think he went to jail for like trying to sell a gun to an undercover cop or something. Yeah, but there was something else that happened as a result of it. But for the most part, I had a very good cash flow system. Like I'd always have money coming in because I knew enough people, and I think after like the first year, I had started selling other things as well, because like
starting other things than we.
yeah. So like I think for like 2 years, I was more into selling pills because I used to go out and there was like a specific club that I used to go to, and the situation was just perfect in there for me to sell pills and get away with it as well
In the club.
in that specific place, because my friend knew the manager of the place, and then I had become friends with the bouncer as well. So we kind of just had like an understanding in a way, like, you know.
Yeah.
That kind of went on for a while. Some shit kind of went down in this, like it was a known drug club, but there was an incident involving a girl and taking some dodgy pills, and after that the club kind of shut down, like, you know. So I kind of moved away from that because I also didn't like ecstasy anymore. I just found it just sucked your happiness from like the next day. It's good in the moment, but going on, it just wasn't nice, like, you know.
So you were only selling the drugs you were taking yourself, or
Well, I was taking all the drugs as well. Like I started with weed, and then I started doing ecstasy, and then some ketamine, MDMA, cocaine, what else? LSD and DMT. I felt like, in a way, it was kind of as a result of learning the market and understanding how other dealers did business, because you usually have guys that would sell weed or guys that would sell coke. Then sometimes these guys, like the guys who sell coke, they would sell like MDMA or ecstasy, ketamine, but you don't ever find somebody that does all
Everything.
of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At least like weed was my main thing, and then coke would be second. But I'd have everything else because I had multiple different ways of getting all these things, like, you know. So I had it, and I could kind of just keep it. And like things like MDMA, ecstasy, ketamine were really cheap to buy in bulk. And then, but the selling price was what? Like MDMA, I think, made me the most amount of money.
Yeah.
In terms of your return on investment, basically. You buy it for like €4 a gram, and then you'd sell it for 50. And when you have like festival season, which is like, you know,
Yeah.
June, July, August, blah, it's insane. I usually would buy for a season, like buy once a year, like a good amount, and then I could keep that till the next year, and then buy that same amount again, because I'm buying it for nothing. It doesn't cost anything to like store it somewhere. When you need it, you can just chip away at it, and you're making such a killing on it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and especially when you're the one that has everything.
Yeah,
people
so
know you.
that was like, because I'd have to go to, I had like 2 or 3 people to buy weed from. One of them was a friend of mine. So the process of getting bulk weed, like if you're buying like 1 or 2 kilos, you have to go to a place to pick it up. It's never really a good place, not a nice neighborhood. Very rarely it is. Like sometimes you're lucky when the people who you're dealing with, they have a bit of cop on, like they understand. Don't just store weed in a place where it looks like you keep weed. I mean, you're just gonna get fucking raided, like, you know. There was my friend has a very good saying. It's like, don't break the law while breaking the law. You just draw.
Yeah, if you have like weed in your car, you don't drive fast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't be stupid while you're doing something like this.
Yeah.
And that was another thing I tried to like get in my business model, which was like, don't look like all the other drug dealers, and don't like sell how they sell, because it draws so much attention to you. For like I've only been arrested once, and that was because the guy that was driving me at the time went through a red light. Apart from that, I've never had any encounter with the police. I've never been stopped. I've never been searched. Not even been looked at in the wrong way. Like, I've stopped and asked police officers directions while I have a whole bunch of shit with me, because they don't look at me and go, this guy fucking sells, like, you know. And you use that, you use common courtesy, being polite, friendly, being on time, giving people what they want, sometimes giving people a little bit extra, being friendly to them. All of these sort of things, like, people then like coming to you. You're a very good, reliable, and not intimidating sort of person that you can go to get all this. Because otherwise, like, I hate to have to send people sometimes to the people that I have to meet to get things. Like, these are mean people. And they're like, just, I don't understand. These guys just seem like on edge and stressed all the time as well. It's not a very pleasant experience, like, especially when you're dealing with a lot of money and stuff like that. Tensions are always high. And anything that potentially goes wrong, like, there's going to be a problem about it. Like, so I realized they don't want to deal with all of that. They need this.
Yeah.
If you can consolidate that, you have a really good working package. Like, I think, like, by the time I stopped, my average customer was like around 3 or 4, like
3 or 4
years. Like, they'd been with me for that many years, like, and I had like about 20 to 30 regulars.
Stay a little bit on the microphone.
They're the ones that would buy week in, week out. They buy the same thing, the same amount, and they keep my, like, main bills paid, my rent paid, everything. Like, I have money to do around whatever and pay my guys as well.
Yeah.
And then I had the other people that were like seasonal buyers or all of this. And the system worked very well. And even after I got arrested, where I had to, because, when I got arrested, I had so it took me a while to kind of understand how to manage money quite well. Because I come, like, not that I come from a poor background or anything like that. I started with not a whole lot of money. And then shortly as a result of doing this, I came up with more money than I've had to work with. And so I've always had a very good, like, cash flow. I'm able to pay my shit. But because of this credit thing, when you get bigger and bigger amounts, you become a little bit careless. Well, I became a bit careless. The old phrases like, don't take from your own stash or whatever. Don't smoke your own supply.
Yeah.
One of these.
Don't get high on your own supply.
That's it. You're what I mean. I used to do that quite a lot, but because I had so much, I would be like, well, I'm not doing anything that substantial. But the little bits add up, and then I can pay off a good bit. But then there's that small bit that's left over that, because I smoked it or spent that, I don't have that. But then I just get another bit. So that debt is added on to the new debt. And then I do that with the second bit. And then slowly, because I'm still giving the guy money every week, and then the new week when I get something, the bill just increases, because his expectation is that you're just going to be with him for the foreseeable future. So for him, it's more beneficial to just keep giving you stuff. So you'll just keep giving him a certain amount of money, because he needs a certain amount of money every week to pay his bills as well. Yeah. It's just a cycle that goes up and up and up. So if you fuck up, he fucks up. If he fucks up, somebody else is gonna fuck up. And then that guy gets fucked, your guy gets fucked. If your guy gets fucked, you're getting fucked. Like, I had a guy once, I was late paying him. He was just like, if I get a box, you get a dig, which is, if I get slapped, you're getting beat up. Yeah. Like, the guy at the bottom always gets the shit kicked out of him, like, because the guy above him didn't get the shit kicked out of him, but there's nobody else that you can kick the shit out of either. Like, you are where it ends, like. But I thankfully have always I kept my head above the water. Yeah. But when I got arrested, because they took money off me, they took drugs, and also, like, I had to move house and stuff like that as well. My situation just upended. And in total, I think I was in like a 40,000 euro debt. Like, I owed 20,000 to one guy who was my friend, so that wasn't that bad. And then I owed 20,000 to another guy who was not really my friend. Like, I'd known him for a while. I've been doing business with him for a while. But, like, my friend, when I told him I got arrested and all this was happening, he was more understanding. And I told him, like, I need some time before I'm able to start up again and start giving you money to clear this, like, and he was like, okay, fair. But this other guy was just like, no, man, I don't give a fuck. Like, you need to give me my money. But he, surprisingly enough, when I told him I had to move house, he found me a place to live.
The other guy?
Yeah, the scary dude, like, Yeah. And this guy, like, I've only had, like, two long-term, like guys that I've been buying weed off, like, you know, in big amounts. And this guy, I met him when I used to work. I used to work in the airport. And he was a dealer of my friends that we used to get coke off from time to time. And this guy, when he found out that I used to work in the airport, would ask me sometimes to bring stuff through security.
Yeah.
Just so, because when he's flying off, he wants to bring his drugs with him, and he doesn't want to like do it, like bring it through security, or he doesn't know how to do it. But I figured out a small way how to do it. So I'd just bring it in, and then I'd meet him inside and just give it to him, because he just has to get on the plane, and it's all gravy, like, you know. And he used to start paying me like in weed for it, and that's how we started getting to know each other, like, you know. And then one day I asked him for the price of like 250 grams of weed and like, I don't know, a small amount of coke or whatever. And he told me, and he thought I wanted to buy it. So the next day he had his driver come down and drop it off. And I was like, I didn't want to buy it. I was just kind of inquiring about the price of it. Like, you know, he's just like, oh, don't worry about it. Just give me a little bit next week, like a little bit of money next week.
Yeah.
And we can pay it off. Like, you don't need to worry about how long it takes or whatever. Like, I'm not going to fucking hassle you about it. Which is one of the biggest white lies he's ever said. While he's never actually done anything, this guy will call you coked up and drunk, like, and just start verbally abusing you.
Like while you are coked up, or while
No, he's coked. This guy was a very, very big cokehead. Like, I'd go down to his house sometimes to pick up something, and like this is 9:30 in the morning. His kids are like just gone to school or whatever, and he's just banging out like fucking fat lines on the microwave, being like, "Here, you want one?" And I'm like, "No, dude, it's fucking 9:30 in the morning. Like, I'm starting my day, like, you know." This guy was a kind of a known gangster from like a close enough area to where I lived, but he had to move out of there because he did something fucked up. So he was like a freelancer. Most of the drug scene is run as part of gangs, like, you know.
Like a freelancer.
He was a high level freelancer. He had only, I think, a couple of other people that he worked that worked for him. But he didn't run like a gang or anything like that. These are other people that they would just do bits for him. Whereas otherwise, you have like an organized gang, rather than just this one guy who does all the shots and calls everything, like, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I call him a freelancer, because he's big in his operation, but it's still just one dude, like, which is kind of rare, because at that level of what he's doing and the amounts that he's moving around, it's very uncommon that you just have one guy kind of running around and doing it, like.
Yeah. Were you like in contact with gangs also?
Me, no, not really, like, because I tried to kind of steer myself out of those waters. Even the people that I would kind of sell to were just normal people, like, you know. They like smoking a bit of weed. They like maybe doing a bit of coke when they go out on the weekends or anything like that. They all have jobs. Very mostly educated people, and not like scummy, bad, shitty people or children or any of these sort of things. You're in it to kind of get what you need, and you need to do that in the quietest and possibly respectable way as well. I don't consider myself in any way as being a bad person, so I don't even want to, while I'm doing this, have that reputation, like, you know. Just try to just do business in an ethical and nice way, like, you know. People will respect you, people will come back, everything runs smoothly, and there's no problems as a result of it, like.
Yeah.
There are times when I've gotten a little bit greedy, but I think it's never been too much where it's come to bite me in the ass. I don't think it's a very good thing that I did that, but I recognize that I did it, but there was a level to which I would never let my greed go past, like, you know, which is, I thought, was a healthy enough thing.
Yeah.
Because you're in an environment where it's so easy to be corrupted by your own means of what you're doing. Certainly, it's caused me a lot of headache from. I think I have like 2 or 3 very standout examples of things that I did as a result of greed. I call it wearing a mask, where I've been a person that I didn't think I was.
Yeah.
And then then there has been some negative consequence that has happened because of it. I used to believe in karma quite a lot, and but I don't think these things are connected. I think I did this bad thing, and that was it. And then this bad thing happened to me. I don't think these things were. It's because I did that. This happened. I don't believe in that correlation. But I don't think so. That's why I don't do good things for the sake that something good is then gonna happen to me, because it feels a bit wrong.
So you have like, you want to share like one example where you crossed your.
Oh, okay, yeah. This is like this isn't even necessarily when I was dealing big or anything like that. I think it was like 18, 19. This is one of the things as well I feel quite embarrassed about. But I will talk about it because I've kind of. It's a good sort of thing to kind of say it, because I will kind of learn a lesson as a result of it, you know. So I was, I think, 18. I had cycled into the city centre in Dublin, and it was like some day in the summer, maybe like May or June, and I was in Temple Bar, standing with my bike, just observing tourists. And these group of guys come over to me. I think they were German or Austrian or something like that. And they were like, "Hey, man, can you get us some weed?" And I was like, "You talking to me?" And they were like, "Yeah." I was like, "There's so many other people here. Like, why did you come to me?" And they were like, "You look like somebody that would smoke weed." And I don't know if I want to be insulted by it or whatever. Because, I mean, they were right. You know what I mean? So I don't think it would have been correct to get annoyed about it. So I kind of laughed, and I was just like, I mean, that's not the point. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think I look like somebody that smokes weed. Yeah. They're like, "Can you get us weed?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I was telling them that, like, I don't have it. A friend of mine has it. I can go get it if you want. And then they were like, "Can we come with you?" And I was like, "I don't think that's how we do things over here. Like, you can't just random 4 guys just pull up to a dude's house to get some weed, like, you know." And they were like, "Okay, so how's this go?" It's like, "Well, I think you can give me some money, and then I can go get it, like, you know." And they were like, "No, we don't know you. We don't want to give you any money or whatever." And I was like, "All right, that's fair enough." And I was gonna leave and then go to the park to smoke a joint. And I'd said that to them, and they were like, "Oh, can we come with you? We don't know any place around here or whatever." And it kind of moved away from them wanting to buy weed to just, we were just chatting, and I was like, "Well, if you want to come smoke this joint with me, sure, like, you know."
Yeah.
Then we went, we smoked, we started talking for a while. We're getting along quite well. And then they were like, "Oh, we're hungry. Do you want to come eat with us?" They went to this Chinese all-you-can-eat, and they paid for me to have food with them. And, like, I think we spent like 2.5 hours.
Yeah. But you had weed on you, right?
No. I just had, like, enough for a joint, and then a joint that I rolled, like, you know. So after we ate, we went and smoked another one. And they were like, "All right, look, we'll give you some money, and then if you can come back and meet us here, that'd be great." And they gave me like €50.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go get it." And I left, and then I just cycled home, dude. And man, I remember everything about it, like the weather, like the feeling of thinking, like, oh, when it happened, I was like, I can't believe I got away with this. Like, you know, these fucking suckers, like, why would they ever think? And now when I think back about it, I'm filled with so much shame that I did that for such a small payoff, where it's not that I just, you know, the guys, if they had initially just given me the €50 and I left, I think I would have felt way less bad.
Yeah.
Because I took the time to mentally convince them that I'm a nice guy and all of this. And then literally the thing that they were worried about me doing, I do that.
Yeah.
That's the shittiest part about what I did. It's the fact that I convinced them that I'm something else, like, you know? If I had just been like, if I had taken it from the start, at least it's that I am a piece of shit, and I'm gonna do a piece of shit thing. Well, that's what you expect somebody who's a piece of shit to do.
Yeah.
But this other thing, it's way worse.
Yeah.
That, in my head, that's why I consider it like one of the worst things. Like it stands to me as, like, for me now, and a very out of character thing to do, like, you know. And I'm trying to think what is the response that happened as a result of it. I think, like, I don't think getting arrested.
Can you go to the microphone again?
I don't think getting arrested was the result of that. Although at the time I did think, you know, because till then nothing bad had really happened.
You got arrested after that? I thought.
Not yeah. This was a while after
Yeah.
it, like, but that's what I mean. Until that point, nothing bad has happened to me, and in terms of like dealing and things had always just gotten better and better, and all of that. That's why it stood out, being like, oh fuck, was this the karma that I was getting? And there was a like, and then after I got arrested as well, like. It was in a shitty place, but then things started to get better. But it started to get better in a way that, for me at the time, I was just like, this is the best thing that has happened to me, despite being in a shitty situation. Like, after I got arrested, I lived with a guy that was a recovering alcoholic. This guy was beyond crazy. Not like in a bad way. He was going through a very bad divorce. His wife of 25 years divorced him. He found out one of his sons, who was like 9 or something, wasn't his, because the woman had cheated on him, basically, like,
Since 9 years. Oh, fuck.
Yeah. And so, like, but this guy was like a very high functioning alcoholic, and after he was working someplace, after he divorced, he became an internet security specialist, and he's self-taught, and he's like mid-50s or whatever, and I found it very interesting, because he's like very good at what he's doing, to a scary degree. Like, the first day I moved in, he was like drunk, and he was like, Matthew, you want to see something? And I was like, sure. And he pulls up like this black and white footage, and it looks like CCTV footage. And I'm like, oh, well, what's this? And he's just like, you see there? That's my bitch wife. And then I realized he pulled up live CCTV of some place in like one of these Spanish islands where his wife was holidaying in. No. He'd found where she was, found the location, found a camera, hacked into it, and was showing me the live footage. And I was like, I was standing by the balcony smoking, and I was like, what the fuck, dude? This is fucked up, like. And he's just like, do you have Facebook? And I was like, yeah. It's like, what's your email address? Or what's your like account name? And I told him. And he just goes into my account. Like, he hacks into my account and just shows it. He's like, your passwords are shit. You know how easy it is to get into this? And I'm like, no, what the fuck, dude? Like, he was mentally hurt a lot, like, and a lot of the things that he did. Like, this was a guy, he also used to... like do bits for this dude that I owed the money to, like, he was how this is the guy that lived in the house that the guy recommended to me. Yeah. So that's why I ended up moving in here. I don't know why else I would be in this situation, like, I stayed with him for like, I think 4 or 5 months, and then I couldn't take it anymore, like, and then I moved in with a recovering drug addict. This guy was a friend of the driver who used to work for the guy that I owed the money to, who ended up becoming my driver, because we both bonded over a shared passion of hatred for this dude. Because this, as I said, this guy was just an asshole, and his driver was the guy that kind of ran the logistics and a lot of the accounting behind his organization, solo organization, like, And he'd get mad because he'd tell the driver to go places when the other person wasn't ready or it just wasn't happening yet. And the guy had to just wait around. Like, that would happen a lot when we had to meet up. Either I would go somewhere and I would wait for like half an hour, and he's like, oh, yeah, he's on the way. When I'd call the driver, he'd be like, man, I'm like on the other end of the city. I have to go to somebody else, and then I'm coming to you. So I'm not going to be with you for like another fucking hour or something. And I'm like, why the fuck did you tell me to come here? Like, this guy was just so erratic and so all over the place. But because I'd have to see the driver like quite regularly, either to give him money or get something off him. And he drove a taxi. Yeah. So this is how it made delivery, just even through Corona, like he could deliver. And because I was using him as well, I could deliver throughout COVID, because you don't stop taxis. You know what I mean? Like, how many taxis are there? They're just going around doing their thing. Yeah. Like, unmarked cards and stuff. And then, like, when a car becomes a taxi, it's automatically And this was just a Prius, like, you know what I mean? It's the most unrecognizable, unremarkable sort of car, like, you know? And we were like going all over the city, never once being stopped or whatever, like, you know? But I would use this guy to kind of bring me places as well. And I ended up like, I think in the last like 2.5, 3 years, I would see this dude every day, the driver. And this driver is like, he's like a man in his 50s or whatever. Like he's like a quarter Italian, 3/4 Irish. Very scary, gangster-looking dude, almost evil-looking.
The driver.
The driver, yeah. But like, he's quite a fun person of mine, to be honest. But any of my friends that have met him or whatever, because he drives a taxi, so he'd bring me anywhere I wanted to go. Like, you know, you obviously pay him, but I would see, as I said, I would see this guy like every day for the last 3 years. He became like, I don't want to say my dad, but like a second sort of dad that you do fucking drugs with and all the bad things that you wouldn't do with your normal dad, like, you know. Even my friends that meet him be like, this guy looks like a cartoon villain, like, you know, he's bald, he's got the eyes and the laugh as well, like, you know. But we spent so much time together that we were both like, man, this guy's a dick. We should kind of just stop working for him, like, you know. And then we both kind of made that decision because I think I stopped working for him, like, I think 2 years before I left. And he would just become, like, there'd be times where he'd give me something, like a certain amount of product, and it wouldn't be the weight that we discussed. But then he would be adamant that it is. And then I just get stuck with less of than what I wanted and still have to pay the full price. And he's done that like a couple of times. And because like if it came down to it, the guy could fuck me up or like send somebody else down to like do something to me. So I'd never like as I said, I'm not an intimidating dude. I'm not out to threaten you or like, you know, if it comes down to it, like I'm not gonna do a whole lot. Like, you know what I mean? So I'd never want to fuck around and find out, like, so
in the end you just paid.
I'd have to just pay, like, you know. And then I was just like, man, I don't want to keep working with you, like, despite this having happened so many times. Like, he had a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde feel to it. One moment he's really nice, he's friendly, he's accommodating, doing all of this. Then he's just an absolute fucking psychopath, like, you know. And I've experienced both sides of that, and I'm like, it's just too much. It's too hard to kind of keep up with a person like this, you know? And especially, like, if you want to do business in a way that's not, like, constantly some guy just ringing you for money, and if you don't have it or giving him good news, he's just going to start threatening you, like, whatever. No, man, that's not what I want to be about, like, you know?
So you were arrested first, and then this with the taxi started after you were arrested.
So I had kind of been using the taxis before that as well, but I had
go a little bit closer to the
in the house that I was staying at. The guy, I moved in because a friend of mine, him and his twin brother, got this house from their parents. So one of the brothers would drive me around. He went through a red light, and then we got pulled over. Getting arrested is very embarrassing. Encounter.
So you had like weed and stuff on you, or?
So this evening I was going out clubbing with my friends. So I was kind of like dressed up, looking nice, ready to go. And he goes through the red light. This is like on what we call the quays in the middle of the city. So like you turn on to. There's a river that runs in the middle of Dublin, and there's 2 roads on either side of this river that leads into the city centre. We're going on the inward going road, and we go through one of there's intersections. We went through one of the intersections. It was a red. We get pulled.
Did he just not see it, or
sorry?
Did he just not see it, or was he speeding? Or?
So no, he's not speeding, but he has a very bad habit of when it's orange. He'll always go through it, even when it's like you're like far away and it's orange. You're like, dude, you're not gonna make it, like, you know. So like, I had told him about this a few times. I was like, Dan, you know what we're doing? Like, don't fuck around here. There's no reason. We're not in a rush. People pay us to go to them. Let us take our time and go. Let's not do something stupid. And he was just like. I think this time he was just kind of not even going fast. He was just kind of rolling along and maybe not paying too much attention. So like it changed And he just kept going, like, you know. So he wasn't like going fast or anything. And I think that's why, like, they could see us very clearly just going, like, you know. And so then they turned green and they came, pulled us over. And it should have just been like they would have just stopped him, given him a ticket or whatever. But because I had like a bag of weed that I was just about to give to somebody, car had a bit of a smell. And they were like, well, what's that smell like? You know, the guy fucking put his head into the fucking, inside the car, like if the window's here,
Yeah.
he puts his face like right here, and obviously you can smell it, like, you know. And then as a result of that, like I had like some coke in my pocket as well, and we got pulled right outside a really fancy hotel.
Yeah.
And Irish cops, they have this dickish thing that they do when they're arresting you, because I've seen it a few times. Like they take everything and they put it onto the top of the car, like all the drugs and stuff that they find out, anything illegal, all the contraband. It's right there that everybody else in the public can see. And like they really try to do this like public humiliation sort of thing, because they cuff you, then they start searching you, and then they're talking to you while you're cuffed outside with your shit there, being like, look at it. You know what I mean? And then, yeah, it was just like, you're being arrested, you're going to be taken, blah, blah, blah. And I had like a fucking small police officer sitting behind me or beside me. And this guy was just talking mad shit to me. He was just like, wait till you get inside. You know what they do to people like you? And I'm like, what do you mean people like me? Well, what the hell are you talking about? Like, and I was getting offended that this dude was trying to fucking intimidate me while I'm in handcuffs. And I'm like, I think I'm good. Like, you know, like this is the worst that it can be. Yeah. Like, you don't need to talk any more shit to me. Like, you know. I got booked. They asked me a couple of questions. I have to fill in some forms. I had to strip because they were like, when they're taking a mugshot of you, they want to get any visible tattoos. And I was wearing a shirt, and like they could see like part of my chest piece, like, you know. And they were like, well, move your shirt a bit. And anytime I kept moving it, they just exposed more and more tattoo. And eventually it was just like, take off your fucking shirt, like, you know. Yeah. And I was like, oh, dude, there's other people there as well. And I was just getting very self-conscious that they were just fucking, once stripping me to take a fucking photo, like, you know. And then they searched me again, and they were like, okay, so you don't have anything. And then they brought me to my cell, and then they're taking off my jacket, and I tried to hide some coke in the sleeve. And then they took off the jacket, and this fell out. And they were like, what the fuck? And I was like, I don't even know that was there. Like, then they put me into the cell. They took my shoelaces because they were like, in case you hang yourself. And I'm like, hang myself, like
with the shoelaces.
Yeah, that I was like, hang myself with shoelaces, and also for this. Yeah, no, dude, like it's okay. They're like, we still have to take it, you know.
Yeah.
And then I think an hour later, they were like, we're gonna go search your house now, because you have enough drugs on you that it warrants us going into your house and searching it to see if you can find more. And I was like, oh yeah, it's not gonna be good. Like, I had a place where I would store most of my shit, so I don't have it all at home, but I would have enough to do me for like, I don't know, a couple of days to a week. It was a considerable amount at the time. Like, they certainly overinflated the value of it, because I knew how much there was. And drugs wise, I think there was only less than about €1,000 worth of drugs, like cocaine, MDMA, and weed. It would have been just under €1,000, or maybe 1,500. They estimated it at the start to be €3,000 and then €6,000, and then eventually they settled on about 10,000. And I was like, what fucking street are you fucking buying your drugs on? If that's the street value that you got like,
you have to tell me where.
Yeah. I was like, you set up for this much? Give it up. What are you doing here? Like, and then one of the things that pissed me off, they took my keys and they were like, look, if you just tell me which keys are which, we'll just open the door and go in. And I was like, okay. I told them, this is my house key, this is my room key, because it's a very noticeable key. And I think my housemate opened the door, and they went and opened my door with the key, and they were like, "Oh wow, he was telling the truth. It works." And then they locked it again, and then they proceeded to kick the shit out. Like they kicked the door
No.
in, bro. The door was hanging off.
Why? Just because they wanted
Just
to...
because, like, when they search your place, they're supposed to leave it in a kind of a decent state. Dude, my room was fucked up. Like, my mattress was like that. My bed was like broken. Like, they had kicked through the bedding at the bottom to see if I was hiding anything underneath it. My wardrobe was like on there. There was, they took out a drawer from the wardrobe, and it was in the bathroom. Like, I had shoes and clothes in the bathroom that they had, for some reason, taken from my room and then like thrown into the whatever. Like, you know, my room was fucking trashed. Although, funnily enough, when I went back and I was looking around, they somehow missed a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Like, they just didn't find it. Like, and in their defense, I didn't know I had it either. So we both found something, like, you know, because when I was moving out, I had to move my table out. And I had a very big wooden table, and it had drawers. And underneath the drawers, because you can't remove the drawers, so I think it must have been there when I put the table there. There was like 56 grams of weed in like one of these like pouches just underneath the table. And I was like, oh, nice. Yeah. When I was in the cell.
So they found cash or drugs?
They found both. Like, they found about 2,000 or 3,000 euro in cash, and then but
what 10,000 euros in drugs?
well, I would have considered it was like around 50 grams of MDMA, maybe like 40 grams of coke, and then like 70 grams of weed. Just that, and then about 2,000 or 3,000 euro in cash.
Yeah.
But how they calculate it is that they take...
But if you say 50 grams for 1 gram of MDMA, and you say 40 grams of MDMA, it's already 2,000 euros.
Yeah, but they're doing it street value. Like, the value to me is like, when I'm buying it...
Like €4.
It's nothing, like, you know what I mean? That's why I'm like, do you know that's not how it works normally anyway? Like, if you're buying just 1 gram, like, that was what was happening when I was a kid growing up. And nobody buys it like that anymore. Like, it's usually you pay 25 euro and you get around 2 grams or something. You pay 50 euro, you get 3.5. That's how it works. So you're never buying a gram for 25 euro. Not in this day and age. I'm not selling it for 25 euro. But they take it as the worst case scenario. Like, you know, that's how they can just make it seem way worse on what you're doing, like, you know. And you can't just, I don't know what argument you're going to give them that they're going to be like, you know, he makes a good point. I don't know why we didn't think about it like this. So like, whatever, it wasn't that big of an amount, but they made it to be a huge amount. I was in the cell. I asked for water like 4 or 5 times.
So this was on the day you got arrested?
Yeah. So I had been booked. They found that little baggie that fell out of me while they were taking my jacket, took my shoelaces. I was sleeping for a lot in the cell because I'd never been in a cell or like a prison-like setting where I just didn't have anything and I couldn't do anything. And I'm just sitting on this stone bed with like the mattress about this thing. Yeah. I'm like, what do I do? You know, like, I didn't feel super stressed out or like, I wasn't like, oh no, what's going to happen? Or because I'm very much confused, like, what's going to happen? Because I don't know what they have on me or anything like that. So I'm like, I'm going to go take a nap. And I just fell asleep for a while. And then I got arrested. The time was around 7:30. Around 8:30, they went to my house and they started collecting everything. And then around 2 a.m., they like woke me up and they brought me from
in the middle of the night?
Yeah. They brought me for my first interview. Like, they interrogated me. And then, around 1 or 2. Because I remember waking up and I was just like, are we going to talk now? We're not doing it in the morning. But it's like a tactic that they did. Like, they kind of wanted to confuse me, like, you know, because I'd just woken up as well. And I noticed something, like, so we had like 2 sets of interviews. The first one, they asked me the majority of things. And the second one was the same things, but they ask it in a different sort of way. And they do that within the first interview as well. But this is throughout the whole thing. And the reason for that is so that they can catch you if you're lying about your story, like, you know, because I noticed it straight away because they had asked me about something and I had kind of made up what I told them. And then I was just like, what did I say? Because I remember that I made it up and I was just like,
fuck.
you know? But it had to do with where I met my initial contact, who I was buying my shit off, like, you know? So I was just like, no, I had two stories in my head and I decided to go with, I think, story A. And I was like, what the exact details? Because I had mirrored the story of something that had happened to me and I just kind of changed some of the details around. So the story is very clear in my head. But then I was like, is this necessarily the one that I used? And then I started talking to my lawyer and everything. But thankfully I had my story straight. So I got out of the thing. Both me and my housemate, or the guy that I got arrested, we both got let out at like, I think 8 a.m. And they wouldn't bring us home or anything. And I was just like, well, how are we going to get back? Like, you know, because they took all our money and everything. And we were like, I don't know, like 30 kilometers away from where we lived. And, oh man, I had to get a taxi. And it was fucking expensive at that time on a Sunday to get a taxi. Like, it cost us like €100 to get back home. Because the house we lived in was also in the countryside. So it wasn't the fact that the distance wasn't that big, but the roads and everything was just windy and a pain in the ass, like, you know.
How did you pay? You didn't have any money and they got all the cash from your house?
So I called so out of the two guys that I owed money to, one of them was like, he's a close friend of mine. Oh, yeah. He's a close friend of mine.
You can also move the microphone to your face. Like, it's like
okay, yeah, sorry. He was a close friend of mine. So I told him about this when I got out and he was just like, where are you? And he came to my house like when I was going home. So like he paid for the taxi so that I can get home. Because they took all the cash that I had in the place as well. But also I had like €400 on me and they took all of that as well. And they had confiscated my phone. They took my like bank cards and stuff like that as well because they want to do tests and all that. Like one of the things I wanted to do was like, I got home and I was like, I need to wipe my phone. I had two phones as well. Naturally, like, you know what I mean? But both of them were smartphones. So I was like, okay, one, it's stupid that I wasn't using one of these small burner phones. But on the other hand, because they're both connected to the cloud and stuff, I can wipe that shit. And I think that worked because nothing ever came out because of text or whatever that they found. Like, you know, they only ever went by, they never tried to find a bigger plot or conspiracy or any
bigger context. Or
yeah. They were like, all right, this guy was selling, he's just a small-time dealer or whatever. They never really got the understanding of how big and what I did and how long and all of these sort of things. They're like, you have this amount, we're going to charge you. That's it. That's going to be the end of it, like, you know. The whole thing I think took about a year, which is quite long in terms of processing. Like, I would have thought, because a friend of mine got arrested like after I moved here, and he got processed within like 3-4 months, like the whole thing from being arrested to his sentencing and stuff like that. Because I remember my case almost got thrown out of court because I'd gone 6 times, and the prosecutor didn't have the book of evidence or a case ready yet, like, you know. And then the 5th time or the 6th time, the judge was like, well, if you come back here and you have nothing, I'm throwing this case out. And my lawyer was like, go, let's go. If I can get away with nothing, like, you know. Well, the next time they had it, like, my lawyer as well, I found out who this guy was from one of my clients because he was in school with my lawyer. My lawyer used to be a cokehead, and I was like, fuck. Like, I know I should, like, this is what happens when you pick, like, you know, if you can't afford a lawyer, you get a public prosecutor or public defendant.
Yeah.
These guys are just, they're like low-tier attorneys, like, you know, because they get paid. Okay, I take that back. They're still qualified lawyers and all that. And they also do it, like, this guy made so much money off the government for me. Like, every time he'd have to go to court, just for showing up, he would get 600 quid. And there have been so many times he'd just be there just to get told to leave. and he'd still make that bank, like, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh man,
It's also profitable.
yeah, because oh man, the like catching criminals and like dealing with them, like the courts are a highly profitable thing. Like, because I'd see other like inspectors and detectives talking to like the lawyers that they would be fighting against, and before they go up, they're all buddy and friendly, like, you know what I mean? They're just talking about their lives and other cases and how they're going to work through this. To them, like, they're partners. They're not working against each other at all.
Yeah.
You're the problem, like, you know?
Yeah.
You're the one that they have to juggle around to see who's going to get to keep the kid, like, you know? There's a divorce happening, and only one of them is going to get you, like, you know? And you're hoping it's going to be the lawyer, because otherwise you're going to go to fucking jail, like. My lawyer, when he first saw me, because he saw all the drugs that I had and stuff, he was just like, man, don't worry about this. You're gonna get a slap on the wrist, and that's gonna be it. Like, you know, no jail time, no fine, nothing essentially is gonna happen to you. And I remember the second last time I was in court, I got moved from the low court to the high court as well, like from the district court to the circuit court. And that was also bad because my lawyer was like, you're also going to just stay here. When that happened, he was like, oh, shit, I didn't expect this to happen, you know? And then the second last time I was in court, he was like, you know, you got to kind of prepare for the fact that there might be a custodial sentence put upon you. And I was like,
Custodial, what is this?
a custodial sentence means that they'll send you to prison, like you actually go to prison. All this time, like for that year, I was like, well, I'm going to probably get like some community service. I had to pay a fine, whatever, because it's my first time offense. It's under, like, there's a cutoff where it's like over 13,000 euro of the value of drugs. They have to impose, or they can impose, a custodial sentence. Up to that amount, they don't have to. And most of the time, if it's a first time offense, they won't. But for some reason, because there was like multiple different drugs and money and stuff like that, the judge was like, "Oh, well, the lawyer painted this picture that like you could potentially go to prison, like, you know." And I was like, "Dude, my parents don't know that I've been arrested, like, and I haven't told them about it either because I don't know how the fuck." I was lucky that I wasn't living at home when this happened, like, you know. But imagine you just go home and be like, "Hey mom, hey dad,
go to prison.
I might go to prison." Like, you know, my parents are traditional-ish. I don't know how the fuck I'm supposed to say any of this information to them. Like, you know, I remember the last time I was in court when I went in to get my sentencing, and there's a box that you walk inside, and that's where they pass sentence on you, like, you know, and you're like, if you walk in that box and you're found to be guilty and you get sent to jail, you don't come out of that. They take you into the back. And that's, from that moment on, your freedom has been completely forfeit, like, you know.
Yeah.
You have no more freedom for however long it is. Thankfully, like, I got 2.5 years suspended, which meant that I have like, it stands in my record that I was convicted for X, Y, and Z. And the punishment that I got was a 2.5 year sentence that was suspended, which meant that I don't have to go to prison, on the condition that I don't do anything wrong and I don't get caught again.
Never again, or for
2.5 years, and then, because if I get caught in that time, then I'll go to jail for 2.5 years, and I'll also whatever I was caught for that time.
Yeah.
So that was the worst. Well, not the worst, I suppose. I still had my freedom, but like, you're like, this is your very last chance. If you fuck up
So
now,
if they find you with 1 gram of weed, you're like,
not 1 gram of weed, but like, they find out that you're like doing the same kind of shit or whatever. If it's 1 gram of weed or whatever, probably not. But like, the story that I'd kind of told was that I was an addict and I was smoking and doing all of this to support my habit and stuff like that, and that's why I had all of this. I was like, I was just moving some so that I can do the rest myself. So they had to send me to rehab for a year, for like 9 months, where I
wait, you lived like at a rehab center?
No, I had to go there like 3 times a week.
Okay.
Once on a Wednesday for like a meeting. It's like NA, Narcotics Anonymous, and then every like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we have to do drug tests. So I had to piss into a cup for like a year.
You had to be sober?
Completely sober. Apart from
what would have happened if you were not?
Well, when the judge sees it, then then they see that. You see, the whole reason why I was doing all of this was not to get any conviction at
Yeah.
all. And then in the end, I still got a conviction, like, you know what I mean? Which was I didn't understand.
So
It's
the
like,
goal was to have nothing in your record.
yeah. But then I still ended up getting a record, and I was just like, why did you make me do all of this? Like, what was the point? Like, if what you said that if I did all of this, I get clean, you won't give me a record. And I had also like started to do an education to become an aircraft mechanic then, but because I had this ongoing case, I wasn't allowed to work in the airport because they won't give you a security clearance if you have like a drug case pending or whatever, like, you know. And I told this to the judge, and then she still ended up giving me the sentence, like, you know. And I was like, well, why are you trying to get me to be better when then I'm coming at you telling you, oh, I have this opportunity and I can't do it if you fuck up my life by giving me a sentence, and then you still fuck up my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that the judge fucked up my life. It was my decision to do all of that. But we're engaging in a conversation that, all right, I've been caught now. How do we go about this process? And you give me these things to do so that I don't get this. Then you still do it.
Yeah.
So that, to me, that makes no sense. Like, you know, but yeah, it is what it is.
But so afterwards, after you got like back,
Yeah.
you had like those 40K debt, 40K debt, and you were like doing this stuff with the taxi, and like it was.
Yeah, I figured out for like I think a couple of months I just started getting product, just starting selling again, just establishing my base, and like most of my clients kind of heard about this because I wasn't like answering my phone for a while either, like, you know, and then I had to like get my numbers again, start the whole network going again, you know. And then I had to figure out a way where I was able to like get shit. Still kind of, well, I didn't smoke any weed anymore for like that year because I couldn't, like, you know. That's when I started doing a lot of ketamine because ketamine was one of the things that they didn't test for. So I got addicted to ketamine for like a long time. But because I wasn't smoking any weed, like I had so much more money as a result of it, like, you know. So I think I cleared that 20K in about, once I got everything going again, within about 5-6 months.
Yeah.
I cleared the entire bill while taking on other things as well. And then after I cleared that, I think I worked with that guy then for like another couple of months, and then I stopped. I moved on to clearing my friend's bill, where I gave him a payment solution, which is usually you have to give them money every month or every week. And I was like, I'll give you money every 3 weeks, for 3 weeks, and then the 4th week I don't. I'll just accumulate money to pay off the debt. And then next week I'll get something else. I can clear that, and then I have some money that I can put aside. And the last week I have money to pay off the debt. Because when you're giving him money every week, then you have to then increase the amount that you're pulling in to then clear off the debt as well as what you've taken to pay off the debt. You understand? So like if I get something, I can pay him like €1,000. And I can do that, €1,000 I can do comfortably, but then I still have the 20K debt. So if I owe him a new 4,000, I'm paying him 1,000, and then the 4th week I'm paying him 1 or 2 off the original 20K, and I still have 1 left over from the new one that I can then pay off next week. And then when I paid that off, I can then get another one. So I'm on zero with any new product that I've gotten. But then I can use part of that profit to pay off the previous debt. It's because I can't earn more than a certain amount in a week, like, you know, and it works better, like the amounts and the time frame kind of worked in that sort of sense. That's why like 3 weeks on, 1 week off. It's what I did for like a long time, and then I eventually just I started making more and more every week as well. So this process became much faster. Like, so I think a year before Corona, I think a year or just over, a little bit before, I became completely like debt free.
Nice.
And then I'd started to build up some money as well. Then I started to buy everything cash. And then for like the last year, yeah, about the last year of my business before I left for the Netherlands was probably like the most profitable, the most like most I've had my head glued on in terms of like managing my finances, saving money. Like I decided to leave the Netherlands.
To leave.
Leave Ireland
Yeah.
in 2019 of December 2019, and I did it in August the next year, and I saved up what should have been enough money for about 3 years and moved over here. But I spent it all in like 1 year. Oh man, I bought and did so much shit, but I didn't care because I was like, this is fast money that I've earned. It was never supposed to last, and not that I blew all of it, but like I've set myself up nicely at the moment where I have all my comforts taken care of. A lot of my shit, like recurring payments or whatever, everything is just nicely handled. But I blew a lot of money.
Yeah.
Most of it when I came over here because it's a core thing that I've never really had a value for money because I went from not having a lot of money to having a shit ton of money and being able to do whatever I wanted as well. And then when I stopped having that regular flow and still having the same spending habits, like you're not even
Yeah,
thinking
of
about
course.
it. Like you're just burning money for the fun of it, like, you know?
Yeah. Okay. You also said that you were working at an airport. Were you also like flying with drugs?
No,
Or-
no, no, no. Oh, yes, but not that's just something I've started to do in my pastime. If I go on holidays and I want to bring shit with me, I would just bring my own stuff, like.
Okay.
But that wasn't why I was working at the airport.
But-
I had a job in the airport, like
But you were never like, or
not
were-
transporting. No,
not-
I
not just for yourself.
just
would-
personal
yeah.
use shit, like, and yeah, like, you know, you have like a couple of grams of coke, couple of grams of weed, just a small little like
Yeah.
package for like going away for a week or two, like,
Yeah.
because one, you don't necessarily want to go out buying drugs in a foreign place that you've never been in. You don't know how the system, the customs, all of those shit work. So if you have your own shit, you can still just
Yeah, and then
enjoy
you don't
it.
have to go to a random guy, give him $50, and he come never.
You never come
comes
back. Like, exactly. Learn from other people's mistakes. Like,
Yeah.
because yeah, I've had friends that have done that. Like, you know, it's happened to me. I think a couple of times as well. Like, you know, you meeting somebody. It's happened to me in Amsterdam. Like the first couple of times I come here. Like, you know, tried to buy some coke. Turn guy just gives me flour because he lets you try something, and you're like, oh, this is good. And then he gives you another bag, which is just flour. Like, it's a fairly straightforward scam to do, like,
Yeah.
you know. And he's never going to see you again. You're never going to see him again.
Fuck.
So, yeah, you don't want to be wasting your time with that.
Yeah. So, okay. Wait, for if you go to the plane, isn't this like super crazy checked everything?
No, so if you go through airport security,
Yeah.
first you have where they check your bags and
Yeah.
they check, well, if you go through check-in, like if you have check-in luggage, they don't scan your bags.
Like if you have check-in. Okay.
Because it goes underneath, and that's just
Yeah.
transporting stuff. Like they don't,
But
they
Isn't
might.
there also like
There's not. I don't think there's an X-ray sort of thing. Like, you know what I mean. And I've never really traveled with a check-in thing. I usually just have like a
hand?
hand luggage and stuff. And so what I'd usually been doing was like just putting it behind my balls, and that's just worked fine. Like, you know. And then a friend of mine, he lived in Spain, and he would come back with hash. And I was like, how are you bringing it back? He's just like, I just throw it into my bag, like his hand luggage, like, you know. Because I had always thought, like, in the X-ray things, it can see what it is, like, you know. It's like if you have a bag of weed, they know it's weed. Like, they don't. It just doesn't look like
Yeah.
high quality buds of weed or whatever. It's just a blur or a mass of something. Because what they're looking for with these machines is like explosives, knives,
Yeah.
and huge amounts of weed. If you just have like 2-3 grams of weed,
Yeah.
shit doesn't look like anything.
But I thought they have like machines that like smell this shit or something. Like
No, they can detect it in take a swab of your
exactly.
hands.
This is what they did. Like when I was flying twice and I didn't have anything with me, but
Yeah.
I think I once had like weed in this backpack, like this backpack.
Yeah.
So they were like I was going with my girlfriend and all the times we were switching, like we were having to go to layoffs, and
Yeah.
every time we were going back in, they did like a swap of my backpack.
Did anything come up?
No.
No.
Never.
So like how this works is like they're expecting.
But they didn't swap her backpack. So
Okay.
they only swapped mine. And I'm like,
yeah. It's a random thing. Well, that
Okay,
happens. It
okay.
never happens to me, which is hilarious because
Okay.
as a brown person going through an airport,
Yeah.
you're going to be the random person.
Yeah.
Never happens to me at all. I walk through airports with like this weird level of confidence that I shouldn't have. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I go through the metal detector, I'm like, I'm not going to get beeped. I'm not going to get randomly stopped. This
Yeah.
just doesn't happen to me.
And
And it
then-
doesn't, like, you know what I mean? And I'm not too happy about it, but I've kind of stopped bringing drugs with me when because I'm stopped kind of doing drugs in general, like,
Yeah.
you know, so there's just no real reason to do it. But yeah, you can bring it through the airport quite easily. You can bring it through security quite easily, and then you go to your gate. They just check your passport. What if you're past security? You're good. Like, unless you're like traveling to America or you're traveling within America. I don't know about America that much, and I always only would do it if I'm traveling to a place I've already been through. I know what the procedure is like when I get off at that airport. I know how you get out of the airport. I know if there's like going to be dogs there. What location are you coming from? If you're coming from the Netherlands, most of the time there might be a check because it's a well-known place that people bring drugs through. But for the most part, like once you get through security in the airport that you're leaving from, you're generally okay. But don't do it, and also don't bring a lot, because a little bit you can kind of feign. Oh, I forgot. Oh, I didn't know. Like, you know, especially from the Netherlands, like it is. That's the main thing. That's the reason why I have this confidence to do it, because it's so easily deniable. That you're like, oh man, this is just a bag that I always have. It's like a little bit of weed. Just take it, just throw it away.
Yeah.
It's an honest mistake, like, you know.
Yeah.
And they probably see it a lot.
Yeah.
So it's a very easy.
Can you move a little bit over with the whole microphone? You can like just because otherwise this phone is in your face.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a very easy thing to kind of say and get away with, like, you know. So it's never been a thing that I thought about too much.
Yeah. So you also told that you got beaten up once. What is the story?
Yeah. Oh man. So I had owed this guy some money, and this guy was a bit crazy, like. And
It's not the guy you were working for so
no,
long.
no.
Just
Like
another-
I didn't even know that guy at this point. This was like when I was like 19, 20 or whatever. And I had only given him like, I think I was supposed to give him like 500 euro that week. I gave him like 300. He wasn't too happy. He came down to the university I was studying at the time, and this was like around 5 or 6 in the afternoon. Proceeded to just like slap me around the place and like give me a couple of punches. Like, I think I had like a bloody nose or whatever, but it was again a very embarrassing sort of situation. Also, there was like people around that weren't doing anything. It was just watching me, like, kind of. He was talking to me, saying shit to me, and just punching me every now and then, and just trying to get like, just like, when are you gonna have it? When are you gonna have it? And I'm like, I told you when I'll fucking have it. Like, why are you fucking hitting me? Like, dude, what the hell? And the dude is like older and bigger than me, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I've never really been in fights and stuff like that. I've always managed to talk my way out of most situations. Like, you know, I think that's my talent, and not fighting or anything like that. And I don't really like all of that sort of shit. So I didn't really know what to do. And I'm like, if I hit him, this is gonna just make the whole thing worse because he's bigger and he's naturally scarier dude. Like, you know, so you just have to take an ass whooping. Like, and yeah, I mean, that happened. I paid the guy off, and I was like, never coming back here again, leaving you a bad Yelp review. Fucking don't buy drugs from this guy. Like, But no, I've almost been caught with drugs at festivals. There was one very funny situation where I was at the very first festival that I went to. There's actually two very funny things that happened in this. So the first night, so I was working at this festival. It's called Electric Picnic, one of the biggest festivals in Ireland. And I was working at this vegan wrap stand. And
also selling drugs, or
no, I had bought down some drugs to sell, but like I was just working there, like just making wraps.
Yeah.
Like, you know. I just went with them because like if you work, they give you a free ticket. So like you can work half and you can enjoy the festival as well. And a good few of my friends were also going there. So I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. And so the first thing was like, so I'd never been camping or anything like that either. So I just got a tent from one of my friends. I was staying in the staff camping, which is quite a bit away from the regular camping where all my friends were staying as well. So I put up my tent, and then I'd gone to work. After work, I saw my friends, and I took some acid. And I think I took like 2 tabs of acid or whatever. Got quite fucked up. And then at like 4 or 5 in the morning, I was like, all right, I need to go back because I've got work.
Where's my fucking tent?
So I get back to my campsite, and it's very dark. And I'm like looking around for a bit, and then I realize, like, dude, I have no idea what my fucking tent looks like because it's not my tent, and I only had it, like, you know. And also, it's fucking pitch black.
Fuck.
So I'm like just looking like some sort of fucking shitty cat burglar going around the campsite trying to find this tent. And there's like a fence, like I was here, and there's like a fence over here and the car park is over here. There's a guy at the fence. He had a light, and he was just like, "You all right?" And I was like, "I can't find my tent, man. It's here somewhere. It's a new tent. It's not even mine, so I don't really know what it looks like, you know." And he's like, "Oh, I'll help you find it." And I'm like, bear in mind, I'm quite high. Yeah. And in my head, I'm like, "Oh man, this is great. This guy is such a friendly, considerate,
thank you, man,
festival goer, like, you know." And I was like, "Great."
The guy with the flashlight on the tent.
Yeah,
probably
lovely
festival goer.
It's a good situation. Like, we're looking for the tent, and then the bad thoughts started creeping into my head. I was like, "It's like 5 in the morning. What is this dude just doing here? Like, you know what I mean? Why is he just by the car park?" And I started to get suspicious more and more. And I'm like, because I had like a bunch of pills in my tent. And I was like, this guy's a cop. This guy is a motherfucking cop. And he knows that I have pills in my tent. What he's trying to get me to do is go to my tent, and then he can then say, like, this is your tent, so these must be yours. Yeah. And I was like, I ain't falling for your fucking trick, buddy. So, like, I'm just thinking all of these things in my head, right? And I'm like, okay, now I'm just definitely not gonna say if I find my tent or not.
Which
like,
doesn't gonna happen.
Yeah, it's not like I don't know where it is, and even if I find it, I'm not gonna say anything. So then we're just still looking for like another 15 minutes, and I'm like, oh well, I guess I can't find my tent. I'm just gonna go with my friends. And he was like, oh fuck, man, I'm really sorry about that. Here, come over to my car. I wanna get something. And I was like, okay. And then we like walk over to the fence, and then we start walking over to the car. And then I'm like thinking in my head, like, what the fuck is going on? Well, we need to go to his car. What you need to get out of his car? Oh no! He already found my tent, and he had taken the drugs, and now he's bringing me over to the car so he can show them to me and tell me that this is yours.
That is
Bro, I was really freaking out, like, you know, and like I'd already prepared to deny everything, you know. Yeah. He got to the car, he opened the boot, and he reaches in and grabs something. And as he's grabbing it, I was just like, that's not mine. And he proceeds to pull out this like huge jar of weed. Like, you know, one of these mason jars, like glass jars, full of weed. And I look into the boot. He's got like 10, 15 of these jars. And he's like, wait, this isn't, I know this isn't yours. This is mine. And I was like, so you're not a cop? He's just like, what? And I was just like, dude, I'm fucking tripping real bad. I thought I'd lost my tent. I thought, because I have some pills in my tent, that you're a cop and you were trying to get me to find my tent so I can you were gonna fucking do me, like. And he's just like, dude, what? No. And then just as we were talking there were 2 other guys walking down beside the tent, or beside the fence, and they were like, hey, you want a beer? These 2 guys come over, give us a beer, and then they go back and then just keep walking. This was a very small detail, I know, but it just always stood out to me that they're just...
Gave you a beer.
They just gave us both the beer and was like, all right, good night, lads, and they just left. Nice and I was just like,
nice,
yeah, exactly. Everybody was just so nice, but I was getting very paranoid about it. And then the guy was like, no, dude, I'm not a cop. I'm sorry you're feeling that way. Look, we'll go in, we'll find your tent. And he like opens the thing, he gives me like a huge butt of weed. He's like, here, hold on to this. You might need it later on, like, you know. And I was like, Thank you.
I might.
We go into the campsite. The first tent we look at, it's my tent.
No.
Bro. I was like, he pointed it out as well. I was like, yeah. Because I opened it and I went inside. I was like, this is my tent. He's like, okay, cool, dude. I'll see you later. And he just left.
And he just gave you this.
He just gave me like this huge bud of weed, and I went back into my tent, and I'm high as fuck, so I can't fall asleep, and I'm fucking shivering because there's like adrenaline, fear, all of these things going through, and I'm just there with this fucking bud of weed in my hand, and I'm like. And I think I just lay there for like 3 hours, and I was like, well, I need to go to work now. I just got up, went and had a shower, and went to work.
And he didn't charge you, he just gifted it.
Yeah, he just gifted me like a nice bud of weed. I never even saw him again. I don't remember what his face looked like, but he definitely looked like a cop. Like undercover cop, like, you know. He just, yeah. And then the next day I went to work. I finished my shift. Everything was fine till the end because I hadn't slept. Like all the LSD was like coming out of me. So like I was seeing things like very gray, and I just felt kind of miserable and wasn't thinking straight. But the whole shift went fine because I had to make 3 like the sauces that go into the wraps, and like I like to cook and I'm pretty good at cooking, so it wasn't that hard of a thing to do. I fucked up when the guy came over. So the thing was run by like a husband and a wife, and the guy was in charge of the van, and the wife did some other shit. And the guy comes over and he's just like, he's English. He was just like, so how you doing, Matthew? How's everything going? I was just like, pretty good. And he was like, how are the sauces? And like, I was like, I hadn't quite tasted everything, but I know how it looked and I know what to add. So I'm like, it should be fine, like, you know. And he's like, I actually haven't tasted it, you know. And I proceed to taste the sauce. So we make it in these big fucking steel pots, right? I did something that only the high brain can think about doing. I wanted to taste something. What would you do? You get a spoon, do this.
Yeah.
I just stuck my hand into it and went, delicious. And he's looking at me like, what? And I'm like, oh, dude, oh man, it's been long. I'm getting at it.
Oh fuck! Oh good. Tap on the screen, and then now you can make it so like, yeah, you can like push them down a little. Yeah, you don't have to balance it. Wait, you can do it. For people listening.
Yeah, but it's leaning forward. I think it might fall now.
This you can do with it. I think. Like this should be fine.
Yeah.
Wait, can you turn a little bit? Like, yeah, it's enough. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. The phone just tipped for people listening.
Yeah, and I just made myself scarce from there. I was
Wait. Stop. So
I dipped my hand into the sauce. I tasted it. I was like, "This is not that bad." And I just look at this guy with this look of horror and shock on his face, like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "It's been a long day, dude. I'm about. Like, I don't know why I did that. Well, I mean, I need to get out of here." And then I go over to my friend's campsite, and I brought the weed with me. Like, you know, I brought like 2 joints. And I roll a joint, and I'm just sitting there. Like, my friends had this huge. There was a lot of them, and they had a huge like a ring of chairs around their campsite. And I'm sitting there. I finished rolling, and I'm just smoking. I'm like, oh, dude, what a fucking like how a couple of hours it's been, like, you know, from finding my fucking tent to this to fucking like looking like a fucking idiot in front of my boss. And I'm sitting there smoking, and I notice, like, through the top of all the tents, I see this guy walking towards our, like, ring. And this guy looks like somebody's fucking dad, like, you know? He's just wearing, like, these cargo shorts, these collared shirt, like, tennis shoes. And I was like, who's this fucking guy? Like, he looks so out of place here. And he's just you know? He's walking over, and, like, as he gets to, like, where I can see all of him, and he's, like, walking through the ring, that's when it hits me. I was like, oh, it's a cop. Oh, fuck, it's a cop. Because he comes over to me, like, he stands right in front of me, and he just pulls out a badge. Like, he's, like, I'm sitting here, and he's, like, my face is at his dick, like, you know? I'm like, oh, okay. And he's just like, can you, like, go over there, and I can talk to you? I'm going to talk to your friends for a second. And I was like, okay. He seemed quite like friendly and not
Yeah.
dickish or whatever, like, you know. And I was just standing by the tent, like still smoking, and he comes over like, "Can you put that down?" And I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm sorry. I'm having a very long day." Like, I put it down. He searches me. I'm wearing this fleece, and you can zip it like this and unzip, and it's got like not a pocket, but like because there's pockets on the outside, the silhouette of the pocket forms another pocket
In the inside, yeah.
on the inside, and I have a bag of pills, and then I have my cigarettes on top of it. So from the guy was searching me, and then he comes over, he sees this, he takes the cigarettes out, and he thinks that the cigarettes are at the bottom of the pocket. He doesn't realize that the cigarettes are sitting on top of the bag of pills.
You're fucking lucky.
So he takes that, he looks inside, he's like, all right, that's fine. He puts it back there, and I was like, and then he finds like my pouch of tobacco, which had like the other joint there, like, you know. And he was just like, he just took my details down and he let me keep my weed because it was just one joint and also the joint that I was smoking because he was like, well, this is going to smell too bad. I'm not going to take it with me, like, you know. So I was like, so I can keep it? He was like, yeah. He just took my details and then he left. And I remember like taking my joint, like my hand is like shaking. I sit back down and I'm like, oh my God. That was one of the luckiest things ever. Like, can't believe. When you're watching it just happening like that and you're like, because you're also telling him like, no, I don't have anything. Because they always give you this, I hate this fucking bullshit that they do, which it's like, if you incriminate yourself, we'll make it less bad on you. It's still got to be bad, but we'll show some mercy. Because it doesn't feel like it's an accurate application of the law. There's too much emotion and power that they feel from doing what they're doing. Like, you know, they're like, we have you in our hand now. Like, and even for something so benign or menial as just smoking a joint, that they'll fuck up your life for it. Like, you know, I always hated that abuse of power that it's been displayed. But this guy, thankfully, he was sound about it. Like, you know, so
yeah. You were also talking about morals, especially in the beginning, like how you see like this, or the way you did it is not really immoral. What did you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by immoral is I don't think the act of selling drugs is an immoral thing. If you go around beating up people, you rob people, you scam people, you cheat people, you're not being straightforward in your line of doing that, sure. That's not a morally right thing to do, but those are all the other things. Like, you know, I don't think the act of selling weed or cocaine is a morally bad thing, because there's so many things that are being sold that if you can call them objectively immoral things and they're being sold legally, like, what is the explanation of that? So I don't think legality equals morality. Okay. Or something being illegal makes it an immoral thing to do. I think the act and how you handle what you're doing makes things immoral. Like, use industries that go on now, you know, people, when you buy your clothes, meat, other sorts of things, where there's a certain level of bad shit that goes on in the background. But you know, you still need this, so you buy it and you don't think too much about it. Does that then make you an immorally bad person? Like, I've never equated to like selling a particular substance to being an immoral thing, but I would have considered me like scamming those Germans as being a far more immoral thing than in my entire tenure of fucking selling drugs. You know, it's because I'm not selling to children, disadvantaged people. I'm not tricking or manipulating anybody to buy anything. It's all people that want it, like, you know what I mean?
But it can still destroy their lives, you know? Like,
sure, yeah, but I'm not telling you to buy it. You're making a choice to buy it. It's your decision, like, you know? Don't hold me accountable. I do have my morals when I do see a situation where I probably shouldn't sell it to somebody. Like, you know, when I used to sell pills and I was selling this club, there was a woman that came up to me. We started chatting and she was just like, oh, can I get some pills off you? And I looked at her and she's very clearly pregnant, like, you know, and I was just like, I asked her, are you pregnant? And she's like, yeah, not that far, like, you know. And I'm like, no, not a chance. Like, I'm not gonna fucking sell you pills. Like, what the fuck is your problem? Like, and she left. And then another woman came over and started talking to me. And then I sold her some pills. And then my friend comes over and was like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? I was just like, what you mean? And he points that woman to me. And she was friends with this woman, like, you know?
Yeah.
And this woman had just sent her friend over to buy it then, and I wasn't even aware, like.
Yeah.
That was something that I felt really bad about, because I was just like, I never want to, I'm not a shitty person that I need to fucking, like, take advantage of.
Yeah, go to the microphone.
of people to sell my drugs. I'm selling it to people that want to buy it, that are, have...
It's their own decision for their own life. They don't destroy another, like...
Exactly, yeah. So that's why, like, that part never felt the moral side of it, like, you know. And you're like, well, you can unintentionally destroy people's lives. Sure, I can, but I'm not taking responsibility for that, because there are individuals that make their own decisions on what they want to do. You're gonna, like, that's the thing, like, you know, I've only ever heard somebody, like, the morality side being told to me by somebody in a position of law or authority. And then it's very clear to argue to them, like, tobacco, alcohol, all these things kill people, way more people than all drugs combined every year. Yet you still keep selling it. What is your argument about that? Like, you don't have one. And if you think, like, that's okay, then all this shit is fine as well. Because I can't.
So it's like about the cutoff. It's
What do you think should be allowed and shouldn't be allowed to?
If you say they're morals, then you should also forbid, like, other things. Like,
exactly. Yeah. Like, I don't think it's. Do you think the war on drugs has been going very well in your favor? If you think that, like, by making these things illegal, people aren't going to do them and people aren't going to get them? No. You just give everything into the hands of the criminals. You make the whole process dangerous. You have a product that is contaminated, that can either be too high in quality or just have a bunch of shit in it, that makes it more dangerous for the consumer. And they're going to do that no matter what. Because you're not going to change people's mentality just by making something illegal. Like, you just make it dangerous. So make it safer. And then, you know what? You can make some money out of it as well if you decide to tax it and do it correctly.
You can tax it. Like,
you can tax it quite a lot, because people will still keep buying it. Look at tobacco throughout Europe, I think. Every year, the price of tobacco increases.
Yeah.
Do people stop smoking? No. In Ireland, it's like €20, €22 for a box of cigarettes. Yeah. That's ridiculous money.
Yes.
People,
ridiculous.
That is ridiculous, because I know in Germany and shit, it's like €6-7. Like, you know, here it's €10 now. Like, when I first started going to Germany, it was...
Still, in Germany, it's still, like, more than half of it is taxes.
Yeah. Like, but it's so cheap. It's so, and like, even my German friends, they'd be like, bro, cigarettes are getting expensive, and it's like €7. And you're like, you don't understand true pain, okay? So I don't, like, we understand that, like, you have a certain bias or a certain, like, want to go in this particular direction. That's why you have cigarettes and alcohol that are legal, because it makes you so much money, and nobody else has as much of a monopoly and a huge income generator as the government does for these sort of things, like, you know. So they're not gonna stop it. They will give you this thing of, like, oh, we're trying to get people to stop by increasing the price. But you understand how
this also, it works. Like, literally, like the
No, because you're not gonna stop people smoking. You're gonna get people buying cigarettes from cheaper places and then selling them.
But still, it gets less. Like, of course, it has a little bit of an effect. Yeah, okay. You're not gonna
by making something illegal, you don't get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. But by making it more expensive, you decrease the amount that is smoked.
Well, then you come to a point where it just happens that people just resort to going to the black market or going to other countries where they can get it for cheaper, and then bringing it back in. Like,
yeah, that will happen. True.
Because it's not, you can't control a huge population of people like this specifically. Like,
but still, if you keep, like, at the margins, like, just as expensive enough that people keep buying it legally.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the best you can do.
I don't think increasing the prices is the way to get people to stop smoking. But, like, I think...
what do you think is the way?
I don't know if it is the way, but I do think more education about these sort of topics, and not... I think when you make something illegal and you villainize something, younger people or people that are kind of unaware or curious about it, they kind of get a bit more drawn into it, because it then has this allure.
Yeah.
You need to take that away. Like, look at how many kids are vaping now. Like,
Yeah.
you know, vaping is crazy big. I used to vape when I was younger, but I was made fun of because I had these old machines.
Yeah.
But I used to like coil it, make my own liquid and stuff like that. I was like an enthusiast vapor. But now kids are just vaping because it's the easy, cool, fun thing to do, and everybody's vaping
Yeah.
as well. Like, I don't want to vape now because one. Well, I used to make the flavoring. Like, I used to work in a factory that made the flavoring. So, like, I understand what you're vaping. And you should really not be vaping. You should not be vaping cotton candy flavored liquid. Like, none of the things in it are meant to be heated, burnt, and inhaled. I know you're just breathing out water vapor. It's like, it's horrible. Like, some of the chemicals they use, like, you know. What was I saying about vaping?
Yeah, I was asking, like, do you think there is a way to decrease it? Like,
smoking as it is, or
like for example, vaping. Let's go with the example of vaping. Like, you could make it illegal. I think less children would use it. Especially with vaping.
I don't think vaping has gotten to the stand that level of it's still in its kind of infancy. The mainstream. People kind of coming around to it, because you see, like, not just kids, like, you know, you have a lot of just people that might have maybe smoked a little bit. They're like, oh, I don't want to smoke anymore, and then they start vaping. But vaping is so much more easier to do, and you can do it inside, and it tastes nicer and doesn't make your clothes smell like shit. So you start doing it more. You're vaping when you're sitting at home. You're vaping when you're just out and about, compared to you would have the odd cigarette when you go out drinking or whatever. And that's not like, it's not gonna fucking kill you, like, you know what I mean? If you smoke 20 a day for like your whole life, that's bad. Like, that has a problem. But like, if you go out like maybe once a month and maybe you have like a couple of cigarettes or whatever, you're not gonna die. You're not gonna get that bad long-term effects if you do something that irregularly.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean?
make it more likely, but it's not a certainty.
You can still you can get like lung cancer from not smoking.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's all these things.
Whenever you increase the probability.
You increase the probability if you do it more.
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
The more you do it, the higher the probability.
But just by, like, say you smoke once a year or something, I don't think that has that much of a significant increase in your in how it affects, say, like if you get COPD or any other heart-related disease or cancer as a result of it, because it's such a small amount that's going into your body to have that big of a change. It's you're not getting nearly enough as what you need, like. But I don't think there is. I don't know. Like, as I said, maybe people's perception of what they're doing to kind of make it seem like, oh, this isn't like that nice or cool, or, you know, I've noticed now, like, people that aren't into it. Like, that's not even a, like, when I was growing up, maybe the environment and the situations and the people I was with, they kind of just did it, and so it was a lot easier for me. But I don't imagine that it becomes so much of a thing. A lot of places here are like no smoking campuses and all of that. So naturally, you just don't do it a whole lot. Like, you know, like after moving here, like a lot of the friends that I have, they smoke weed, but they wouldn't smoke cigarettes as much. Like, you know, but weed is a little bit different, I think. Yeah. Not as habitual as, say, smoking cigarettes is in terms of
the amount.
Yeah, but weed is also highly addictive. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Even if they say it's only psychologically, it's still quite an addictive thing. Like,
yeah. Do you still take drugs?
I smoke weed. Like, I'm not against taking drugs. I've always loved taking drugs. I've always questioned myself, like, what is it about sniffing something that I really like? You know? And it's a weird thing to kind of think about, because you love the rush of something just going up and burning your entire sinuses, and just this rush of weird animalistic thoughts going through your head. I like it, but I try not to divulge or indulge in it. It is some occasion, but those are far and few between. Like, you know, I smoke weed every day, but like maybe a joint or two in the evening. That's it. Okay,
so you never had really like a problem with addiction? Oh yeah, you said with ketamine.
With ketamine, yeah. Weed, I think I've been addicted to weed for like over 10 years, like, you know. But it's like the most controlled and the least I've been smoking, because I still like smoking. Yeah. I don't want to vape. I kind of like the ritual behind rolling a joint, sitting down, sit on the balcony, just smoke, you're chill. It's fine. It's nothing too crazy. I don't find it to be that much of a problem. But at some point, I kind of want to cut that down as well. Ketamine was a result of like, it started when I had to go to rehab, and this was one of the only things that I could do. And then with me, whenever I start doing something a lot, I become very functional on it. Like, you know, like with ketamine, like I've gone to work, I've done almost anything and everything you can think of on it and being fine. Because my tolerance went up so much that like my body isn't like, you know, couch locked or I'm unable to move, but my head's in a very weird place. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I use
So,
it.
so your body works, but your head is like,
I'm still thinking and talking, but like I'm not. I did it because I just don't want to be here. Like, you know, like I was dealing with a lot like depression and a whole bunch of mental illness related things, and like partly the reason why I left Ireland, I was like, my girlfriend had broken up with me, and as a result of that, I lost a huge portion of my friends because they were all people that I became friends with after I started going out with this girl. And after that happened, I was just, you kept thinking about, my head was just thinking all the time, like, you know, just running through memories and just, I'd get to a point where I just start feeling really shit about it. And then I was like, I don't want to think about this, like, you know. And ketamine was real good because it stopped that for a while, but then it started to make me really introspective, like, you know. I started thinking quite a lot about my problems and who I am and what I've done, and it helped me to kind of find answers to a lot of things, but then it also, because it was doing all this good for me, I just got stuck in this vicious loop of just being ketted out all the time, like, you know. And then I also enjoyed I could scare myself, like visually scare myself while I'm
to microphone. Sorry.
while like I would take it and lie down in the dark, and then you get this weird feeling of weightlessness, like you're falling. And then I would just imagine myself falling through this black void for like, I just lay there for hours, like, you know. And it was a great way to kind of just escape being in my own head, because I didn't like myself for a long time, like. And eventually I was just like, well, this is very expensive and this is doing nothing to me. My nose starts to hurt, and I felt like I was kind of losing like my grasp over like not my sanity, but like parts of reality. What I started to become very existential, very cynical. I think I'm still very cynical, and very much like, what's the fucking point to anything, like, you know? But a part of that, like, I've been not directionless, but I've had a lot of different passions that I want to pursue, and I've been very passion driven my whole life. Like anything that I would like to do and pursue as a career or whatever, it has to bring me a good bit of joy. I don't care if I earn a shit ton of money, because I've learned that from selling drugs, money does not bring me any happiness. I like working with people. I like trying to make people's lives a little bit better, or a lot, whatever way. Like, you know, my entire pull has always been about social connection, because it's something that I feel like that's the one thing I never truly had when I was growing up. And that's why I started doing all of this. Everything has always been in the pursuit of having better social circles, better friends, better relationships, whatever it is. You don't want to have this feeling of that you're alone, you know? It's something that I've also had to embrace, being like, you know what, being alone isn't all that bad. And you don't need to always depend upon people for your own sense of happiness, self-worth, and all of these sort of things, like, you know? So it's been a journey to like wean myself off ketamine, but then also understand and accept all of these things. Part of like when people try to improve themselves, you know, self-improvement is a huge thing.
Yeah.
But self-improvement only works if you have self-acceptance as well. You can improve yourself, and those are the tangible things. That's why like people go to the gym, they start picking up a hobby or whatever, because they're like, I want to improve myself or change. But to change, you need to accept who you were. If you can't change from an unknown, like, you know, what are you changing from? What do you want to change to?
Yeah.
That you need to admit to yourself, accept yourself of the person that you are. You don't want to be that person anymore. But if you don't do that part, all the things you keep doing is never going to make you feel good, because you haven't achieved that the acceptance is the core of getting better, because you're doing this because you don't feel like you're a good person. You want to move away from that. But if you don't accept that, you can't. You're just constantly stuck in the same mental space that you were when you were trying to move on from whatever. Like, that's what I've understood, because I couldn't accept a lot about what I did and who I am.
How did you come into this acceptance, this understanding?
This is only something that I like within the last half a year that I'm kind of like, from like, I don't know, reading or hearing philosophers and stuff online, people talking about things. I heard somebody talking about like self-improvement is two parts. It's the tangible and it's the non-tangible. The tangible are much more easier because you can physically do them.
Productivity and stuff.
Yeah, these measured metrics that you can have, like, oh, I've done X amount, this, that. I go to the gym every day. I wake up. But
intermittent fasting.
Yeah. But then just sitting with yourself and, like, you know, going through these things and then not feeling like shit, not feeling, I don't know, like judging yourself, just being really self-critical about yourself. I always feel like, oh, I don't do all these good things and people are always judging me for it. When I'm like, no, the only person judging you is yourself. Like, you have nice friends that don't say shit about you. Your parents are, like, you know, you have a decent relationship with them. You're the one that's constantly putting yourself through this and making yourself feel bad. And all because of what happened with your ex and all your friends leaving you and stuff like that. And you kind of just keep living in this pain over and over again. And it took me some time to be like, yeah, this happened, that happened. This is where I am as a result of it. I can't change it. I can't go back. I need to kind of accept it and move on, because otherwise I'm just going to be fucking 50 and still be reliving the sort of feeling, like, you know, and that doesn't seem very good for your own emotional growth, like, you know. Because if you're aware of something and then you actively don't do anything to change it, that's fucking stupid, like.
Yeah.
You know?
So how you, through reading philosophers and stuff, you were kind of realizing this? Or
I don't want to say like
ketamine, or
ketamine has given me a lot of insight into things, but I'm very self-aware. I don't say it because I think that I am. Like, all my therapists keep telling me that I'm very self-aware, because I go to a therapy session and it's like the person there is just so that I'm aware I'm talking to somebody, not just speaking to a wall. Like, because I tell them the problem, I guide them through everything. I give them the pros and the cons. I lay it out in every way, and then I give possible solutions, and then I pick the solution that I feel like is best.
So, and they were just like sitting next to you and be like,
yes, exactly. And I'm like, because it's happened so much, and like sometimes I like it because then I at least get the clarification of how I thought, and my train of thought is going in the right direction. Like, you know, if ever it comes down to it that they're like, you're fucking, what the fuck are you saying? Like, you know, this is very out of character. Then I'll know, like, okay, I'm not analyzing or assessing the situation correctly. But so far, I know the right and correct thing to do, but sometimes it's hard to do it, and I don't do it. But doesn't mean I do it out of ignorance. If anything, it's worse because I'm fully aware of all the wrong that I do. I just sometimes keep doing it because I can't do the other way. I don't have the mental strength or the willpower to do it, like, you know. But I'm always working on it too.
So when you know what the right thing is, but you not manage to do it
for myself,
not
like a situation of a moral situation or whatever.
You have an example?
Like when I was trying to stop ketamine, and I'm very clear-headed when I'm not. Well, even when I'm on it, I'm kind of clear-headed where I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this, and all I should do is like delete the number, don't call the guy, don't think about it, just go on with my day. There's no like physical like if you have with heroin or whatever. And then every day I just failed the simple task of not calling the dealer and then getting it and being like, well, I'll start again tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's so straightforward what I need to do, because it's not like, because when I go back to Ireland or whatever and I'm visiting my parents, I'm not doing ketamine there, because I moved away from all of that and I'm staying with them, and I don't want to go out and buy it over there. I don't want to spend that much money over there. I want to bring it with me. So I'm over there. I don't have any ketamine. Don't think about it. There's like, that's how easy it is not to do it. Or I go on holiday, I'm traveling somewhere and I don't have any left with me, or I didn't bring any with me. It's not even that I'm like, oh, I need to find a number, I need to call somebody, I'm thinking about it, it's ruining my holiday. It's not even relevant, but it's here. I have the freedom, I have the ability, I have the money, the ease of how to get it. and then I can't. And then it just went on for so long, like till one point where I come to like this breaking point or like my rock bottom where I'm like, I can't keep fucking going on like this, you know? I'm so tired of myself, of just constantly doing the wrong thing. Then I'm like, you get to those points, and then if you're lucky, you're able to sustain that feeling of shame and guilt, to use it to mold yourself into something a little bit better. Well, I tried to use it to mold myself into something better, but then also, I try not to be so harsh on myself, even after all the times of fucking up and being like, you're good, you can start again. Like, I went and got my blood work done when I was over in Ireland like 2 weeks ago. I am super healthy, which is a surprise for me and my dad, because like 4 years of very heavy ketamine usage. And my dad was looking through the thing because he knows about all these sort of things. I'm quite open with my parents in terms of my drug use and going to rehab and stuff. Yeah. And I was like, how are my kidneys looking? He was just like, surprisingly good. Like, because they give you, like, there's like 3 indicators and there's a range. Yeah. And it was smack bang in the middle. So I was like, can't be doing any better than that. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, and it always kind of worried me that I'm getting into my 30s. I don't want to fuck around with my health anymore. Yeah. I mean, I've always kind of been healthy-ish. Like, I cycle, work out. Yeah. But as you get older, you need to, like, there's a certain level where your body's just like, dude, it's been so many years of fucking keeping up with you. Like, give me a fucking break. Like, and I don't want to get my body to a point like that. And it's come to, as I said, it's not that, doing drugs isn't that much fun anymore. All that part is really left. And it used to be this wild, like, hectic adventure. Mm-hmm. Now it's just, I've got a problem. Like, it's not as fun as what it used to be. Like, now you're just thinking a lot, and you're like, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have called him. I shouldn't have paid him. You shouldn't have done any of this. So it's just not, it's not as fun, like, you know?
Yeah. So after your girlfriend broke up with you, you went, like, a little bit into depression?
Yeah,
I
mean,
was
at the
after
time,
ketamine?
No, so like I started ketamine before I even got with this chick. Like, you know, I became depressed. I think only after. I don't think directly after we broke up, because we broke up because I fucked up. Like, you know, it was the reason. It was my fault, and that was why we. So I wasn't like, which was the effect of it. I kind of only like got worse. Not worse. Like, it kind of just. I only realized the gravity of my actions, because I was a fairly like reckless and impulsive person, and when I met this girl, I was at a very low point, and through meeting her and going out with her and getting all these friends, like, I felt like I went into a really good point in my life, you know, where I went from being at the bottom to being on top, like, you know. And it was almost like the story of Icarus, where like everything is just
too high.
I flew too high
too
when I
I
had everything, but I wanted more. Like, and that at that point, like, the world is gonna show you like you're being greedy, and you're being greedy in a very bad way. And
go to the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're being greedy in a very bad way, and it's I don't know. I don't think it's like, you know, karma or whatever. It wasn't gonna work out, but I didn't give a shit. I just went ahead and did what I wanted anyway, and then I got caught. And the realizing this, having had everything that made me feel happy, like just genuinely happy, and it wasn't to do with like money or whatever. Like the people that cared for me, like, I had, like, going out with this girl was, like, probably one of the best relationships I've ever had. And what made it better was, like, she had a really nice family that really liked me. And I got to do things, like, that were, it felt very cliche, a rom-com-ish, like, you know? Like, every year, like, going on a holiday, like, with her family, like, because one of the good things about, I suppose, dating a drug dealer is, like, you have a lot of money to spend on people as well. Like, me and her, like, she lived in Berlin for a year. She was, like, studying over there. I'd visit her, like, every 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't give a fuck. I didn't have to give a fuck about
Yeah.
staying here, having to save up the money or whatever. I'd go, spend like a week with her, come back, do business for like 2 weeks, have something set up so that I can go away for a week. Things just worked so well. And then while she was over there, we can go on holidays to other places as well. We went so many places in the first year. And why this relationship also was so valuable, I suppose how I viewed it was like she didn't want to date me in the sense that because when I met and we were hanging out, she was like, in 6 months' time, I'm going to be moving to Berlin to do an Erasmus. So I don't think I want to start dating anybody now because we're going to I don't want to do long distance or anything like that. And I was like, oh, okay. I was kind of bummed, but I really like this chick, yeah, you know? And she liked me as well. So she was like, okay, well, we can still hang out and do whatever, like. And then I remember like a little bit before she needed to go over, she was like, well, you know, you can like come visit me when I'm over there. And I'm like, well, I thought you said you didn't want to do like long distance or whatever. And she was like, oh, I know, but like, you know, kind of just saying this because like she still wanted to see me. And I remember like the first time I went to see her, like we went out clubbing. I forgot where it was. I don't know if it was like Sisyphus or Tresor or something. Berlin clubbing is one of the best experiences of my degenerate life that I've had. It's like insanely fun. But we were in one of these clubs because they also have like these insane like 4 or 5 day parties where it starts like on a Thursday night and finishes like on a Tuesday. And you're like, I remember attending one of these first. Like German people party like they have a job, like, you know. Yeah. They go there, they get fucked up, and then they go and do their normal job. Like there's no like, I don't know. I was just like, what do you get out of fucking partying for 4 days nonstop, like, you know? But we were in one of these parties and like, she asked me to be her boyfriend there, and for me it was like, from dating somebody that I liked that I knew wasn't going to work out. So you've always had this idea that it's going to end. And then everything just keeps getting better and better and better. When you get it's like, you know, the phrase, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Yeah. I had my cake and I got to eat it. Like but I think that's why, like, you know, in my head, I was just like, I can just keep getting and doing whatever I want. Yeah. And nothing's going to stop me. My life is just A1. Yeah. And as I said, I flew too close to the sun where I was just too selfish, too self-centered in what I wanted. And it ended like that, you know? And then I was just like, well, I'm fucking kind of sick of I've been selling drugs at that point, I think, for like 8 years. And I was like, man, I'm not doing anything with my life. I'm not going anywhere. And I realized what kind of a person it had made me. It kind of warped me away from the person that I thought I was, how I started off, and the intention of being a good person. I mean, I don't think that one thing made me a bad person or anything, but I hurt the person that I loved the most at that time, like, you know, as a result of my twisted views and my hubris when it came to just existing, I guess. And I was like, I need a change in my life, and I need to move away from this country, because if I stay here, I'm gonna just keep selling, like, you know. And I didn't know what else I wanted to do, so I was like, oh, let me move. I'll start my life again, as it were. I have the money to do it, and I'm thankfully European, so I can go anywhere in the EU, and it should be fine, like, you know. Yeah. And that was like 2019, December, when I decided that. I was very drunk, and I was like, I am leaving this country. And I think I just searched up like countries where you can study with English, Europe. The Netherlands was like #1, so I was like, perfect. I'm coming here. Like when I saw the Netherlands as well, I was like, oh shit, you can buy weed legally. Yeah. I don't want to stay. It was like a thing that drove me. I was lucky that I found the course and stuff that I was doing. It just happened to be a bonus at the time. Yeah. Now I'm not like. Now it's not that. Not that exciting anymore. Like, you know. Now I just feel like I live in a small little town, and I went from having such a wild and adventurous. Every day was like, you know, you're reading some fucking crazy book to. This is the most benign, easy life. So relaxed and nothing crazy happens, like, you know.
Yeah.
So I've kind of liked that change, and it's helped me like mentally grow, I think. And that changed, like, when I went from like, I never worried about paying my rent or anything like that ever. And 2 years ago, I was working 2 jobs just to pay rent. And I was just like, oh man, my early 20s has taught me nothing at all. Like,
Fuck.
because you see yourself, you're like, if I had spent that time, I don't know, like actively going to university, developing some skills, not just fucking being good at talking to people and selling fucking shit to a farmer, like, you know, I wouldn't be having to fucking work in the daytime, go home, eat, and then go work in the nighttime. I was like, on my second job, like working night shifts. You're just mad at yourself. You're like, because I've got an older brother and a younger sister. And my older brother is an atomic engineer, and my younger sister is a doctor.
Fuck.
And I'm like, what am I doing with my fucking self? Like, you know? But I've never. That's never really made me. Like, I don't compare myself to other people and how they're doing and what they're doing in their life. I'm happy for whatever people are doing, you know. And I'm happy for where I am. I've had, as I said, I've had a lot of ups and downs. But it's taught me a lot. And I feel like I've had to kind of live these things, learn these painful lessons sometimes, because I don't think I would have learned them in any other way. And now I definitely or definitively know not to do these things, because I understand how it affects people, how it can hurt people. And I've never, as I said, I've hated being the person that wears this mask to somebody. So I never want to be that person, like, you know. And every time it has happened that I've worn a mask, it's made me very aware of how I can do it. And then I never do that. Or I'm much more aware about the ability to do it. And I try my best to be, I try to be an honest, kind, caring, empathetic person. Because those are the values that I've always had. I've sometimes skewed away from it. But those are what I think it's like if everybody kind of acted like that, I don't think we would have all these sort of problems that kind of happen in the world. Like, you know, we don't give each other the time of day. We're very like, we have our defenses up and we can't hear the other person out and we can't see things from their point of view. And we just kind of believe that they're wrong, I'm right. They're bad, or like, they're bad, I'm good. And you make everything so black and white and there's no nuance, there's no color or flavor. And it separates us all, like, you know. And I try my best to incorporate those sort of values. I mean, that's why I started off selling drugs, so I could be closer, have a more fulfilling circle of friends. That didn't work out, but I've taken the lessons that I've learned from it, and I can kind of keep applying that to my everyday life, you know. Yeah,
nice. What do you do now?
Now I make specialty piping for semiconductors and aerospace applications.
Do you like that?
Well, I started doing this. Like, so the reason why I moved to the Netherlands, like my what I wanted to do with my life was, can you guess? If you have to take a guess from anything that I've said,
what you wanted to do with your life?
What? Why? The reason I found a calling in my life, and I still find it quite a
calling in your life.
Yeah, I still think it's something very
I have no idea.
Close to who I not who like, well, yeah, if you know me a bit, it would be close to who I am. But this is what I feel like.
You want to help some people.
That's like, one thing, but like an artistic expression. I want to make perfumes.
Damn.
That's the reason why I moved here, because I was like, I need to do a degree. This is
when you discovered this when you were working at the vaping factory.
No, when I was the vaping factory.
You told or you did something with the vaping liquids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was here. So
this was here. Yeah, connected.
Well, like I made the flavoring, but back then, like I just used to use the flavoring, like you know. I wanted to. So when I worked in the airport, I had my job was a stock manager. Mm-hmm. So I
stock
manager.
Yeah.
So I was in charge of the stock room that had all the products for. So in the the airport duty free.
Yeah, duty free. Yeah.
So you have alcohol, confectionery, souvenirs, and stuff, and that's one side, and then you have the other side, which is makeup, perfumes, cosmetics, all of this. And me, along with like a group, we were in charge of like dealing with the stock as it comes in and dishing it out to each house or each section, like you know.
Yeah.
And the guys naturally didn't want to deal with any of the makeup, cosmetics, or whatever, because they're like, "That's gay, bro." And I'm like, I kind of get it. But I really like perfumes. Well,
Yeah.
I liked. I'm a sense based person. Like so, anything to do with like sight, touch, hearing, smell. I don't want to say I get a hard on for it, but like I learn and I appreciate it
Yeah.
very deeply. Like and I've always loved smells because your sense of smell is quite an interesting thing. Like you can smell something that you maybe smelled in your childhood, like your grandma making you something, or the smell of a particular room, smell of a particular book, smell of a person, whatever it is.
True. Yeah.
And say you smell that again, and you go back to that moment when you've smelt it, or when that memory is very prevalent in your life, And I love that because it can do that, and you can't lie about it either. Like it's such a true emotion, So I've always loved that. That, and also I watched this movie called Perfume: Story of a Murder, and I was like, this guy understands how I feel about.
Is this guy that made like this perfumes the guy that's born with no smell?
No. He has a very intense sense of smell, but he has
no, that's born with no internal like.
Yeah, he himself doesn't have the smell.
I
so
know.
he tries to go and make all these cool smells. He ends up killing a bunch of women to capture their scent. I don't want to do that, but like, I like that.
The movie.
His take on how he views the world through worlds, and I really liked what I was doing in the airport, and I like the social aspect as well because I'm like bringing out perfumes to individual like fragrance houses and stuff, and you're talking to the people, just having a chat.
So the customers,
not the customers, the
people,
usually the old ladies that are selling it over there. I get along really well with like grandparents and stuff, So I just go out and I just fucking waste my day just talking to them, like and I really liked it. And when I was leaving, I was just like, can I do this? Like, I'm sure there has to be people that make this. Can I be one of these people? Like, So I looked up your career trajectory on how you can end up being a perfumer, like, and you need to have a degree in some kind of chemistry or some kind of bachelor degree, and then like 40K, and then you can go to France and study it in Grasse. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go get a degree, and then I'm gonna go study.
Nice.
And then I started getting my degree. I started studying in Fontes, doing a course that had been around for like 5-6 years. It was very vague. And I hadn't been in education in a very long time in a setting quite like that, and I couldn't engage with it properly, So I stopped that, and then I started working here. This was like maybe like 2 years into, or about a year and a half after having moved here. I started working initially as a necessity because I ran out of money, and then I started finding like better and better jobs, and eventually I started working at this company called EFF. That makes flavors and fragrances. I joined there because I called up. I saw that they had a position open for a process operator, which is somebody that makes these things. Like they manufacture it. They don't create.
So you not create, but you just
you manufacture. But it's a very technical sort of role. And to date, I would say it would probably be the most mentally nourishing and stimulating job that I've ever had in my life. I've learned so much. And my constant want to learn about what I'm doing, because my job when I was working here as a flavor compounder is that I'm making all manner of artificial flavoring. So like our customers are like Coca-Cola, P&G, Johnson & Johnson, Pepsi, anything and everything. We're like leading in the world for flavor manufacturing, and you're making things.
The flavor is
artificial flavoring. So like you say,
is smell and taste at the same time.
Yeah, say you made a drink like Sprite or Coca-Cola. That's the syrup itself. It's the flavoring that we make. So I have like a computer, and I dose out like between like 40 and 50 ingredients. And you see the science and the chemistry behind it, all these chemicals that you're gathering. And we make biscuit flavoring, right? And we have individual chemicals that you're like smelling, and you get like, oh, this makes up this part of a biscuit, and this makes up this part of a biscuit, and then you put it together and you're smelling it, and you're like, this liquid just smells like biscuit. Like it's so, like, it was so mind blowing because how very very specific we can make a flavoring. Like we have chicken flavoring, We have white meat chicken flavoring. We have roasted white meat chicken flavoring. You have dark meat. You have leg meat. You have stewed. You have sand cooked. You have barbecue. And this is just for meat. Say you have strawberry. You have wild strawberry. You have strawberry for milk. You have strawberry for confectionery. Strawberry in jam. You have clearless. So you can make everything but completely clearless. Like the flavoring is see-through, like water, like, you know?
Yeah.
And over like 200, 300,000 ingredients in total. Like, and there's so much, like even even for me, like sometimes I'm just walking through the warehouses and stuff and you're seeing like flavorings that you've never even heard about, never even thought about, never even thought that this was a flavoring to begin with, like, you know. So the science behind that and everything was just so fascinating for me, like, you know, and I loved going in to just like, I learned what I'm making that day. You'd make like between like 10 different flavors per day. And then after a while, you get used to what you're making. You find out the best way to homogenize everything because you have a mix of liquids and powders. Everything needs to be dissolved properly. You can't have any lumps, any like undissolved bits. Everything needs to be smooth and match the appearance and the viscosity and the color and everything. And getting to do that, and every time, like at home, I've like samples of a whole bunch of shit that I've made.
Yeah.
Because like
Perfumes.
No, flavorings.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I have cheeseburger flavoring. I have barbecue. I have alcohol flavoring, honey. It's just because you just give it to somebody and ask them to smell it, and they're like, "What the fuck is this? Is this honey?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And you're looking at the small nondescript bottle, and they're like, "How the fuck is this honey?" Like, you know, and you can use it in food. The science always blow my mind.
Damn. In what kind of food do you put this? Like in
Everything. Okay. I don't know if you have anything prepackaged or whatever.
No, I only buy from the market. Like
if you go to a supermarket and you go look at pick up anything, read the ingredients, and if it says natural aroma, that's artificial flavoring. We make things that have clean packaging or clean labeling. So all you have to label is aroma or flavoring. That's all you need to tell them. But it doesn't give you the fucking 50 list of chemicals that go into it, like, you know.
But you don't need that much. You probably just like you need a drop on, or is it healthy? Like this stuff you mixed.
I mean, in how it's used, no.
Yeah.
But
well, probably if you chuck like
that's
if you chuck a glass of honey flavoring,
it's probably gonna kill you. Like like we make onion flavoring. Onion flavoring almost. My first time making onion flavoring, I almost died because So a recipe can be broken up in a couple of ways. So you have a base, which is what carries the majority of the active concentrated compounds. You have your active ingredients that are all the things that make up the smell. Then you have sometimes binding agents that keep, if you have things like a starch blend or a soy lectin blend, they kind of just keep because you have to then make your base, and then you have to make sure the base just doesn't separate or curdle. It has to stay in the same consistency. And then you have powders that you would add. You have two different kinds, aqua and organic. And then you just need to know which combination to mix it in. You have to add all of one first, mix everything, and then add the other. Because you can't mix aqua and organic. Aqua powder with organic liquid. You're not going to get it to dissolve. And if you add it without mixing it properly, you fucked up. And you're making like, your orders are like 500 liters, 400 liters. Like, so you have a big mobile tank you're pushing around.
Putting stuff inside. Yeah.
So you sometimes go pick up like fucking 4 buckets, like 20 kilos each, and you're just pouring it into the thing.
Yeah.
Or you have this very special computer that has like a very accurate scale on it. You have like different avenues that have like, they have this, it stores ingredients and you can dispense it just like about like 300 taps in a row. And it has the item, you just scan it, so you're using the right item, and then you just open the tap and it just
comes out.
It comes out. And then you have, the final thing you would always add are toxics. So I'll give you an example. So for like, that's what they're called.
Doesn't sound.
No, I know.
Doesn't sound like something you want in your food.
No, exactly. So you have like small for like fruit flavors and stuff like that. You have a lot of sulfide compounds. They kind of smell like rotten eggs, but depending on their like the amounts that you use and for what application.
They smell like rotten eggs.
Yeah, it's like it's a sulfide compound.
Yeah.
So sulfur usually smells like rotten eggs, but so you have dimethyl sulfide extra, dimethyl sulfide nat, dimethyl sulfide 10% in PG. You have furfural. Those are the TC ones, and then you have for more savory applications. So one of the things, so when I was making onion flavoring, we use this thing called allyl isothiocyanate, and this is like, I think it's a precursor to one of the ingredients that you use in, I think what the Germans were using in World War One, like to kill people in the gases, you know, because what it does is this.
It's like mustard gas.
Yeah. It's like some chlorine-based bullshit, like
Yeah.
it's really bad.
Yeah. Super toxic.
Yeah, so this thing like you have like a toxic booth that you added into the toxic booth, like it has airflow that pushes everything down, so you never smell anything. You know what I mean? So I added my toxic into it in the booth, and then the onion flavoring is very thick, and you have to add these things while mixing so that it just goes into the vortex and is dissolved and dissipated throughout the entire liquid solution. But because I added it at the toxic booth, it's just kind of sitting on the top because it hasn't mixed through yet because I haven't put the mixer in. So then I took it out of the toxic booth and brought it back to the mixer, and then I opened the hole where you put the mixer through, and the smell just hit me, like, you know, and it's like you're trying to breathe, and every time you go, you can't breathe out, so you can just keep going, and your lungs close off, and there's no exhale ability. You can only inhale, so you can just go,
and then you're full.
and you're like, you can't breathe, like, you know what I mean? Like, I went blind for like about a minute, 2 minutes. Like, I opened this thing, it just hit me, and I like fell back and then onto my knees, and everybody was on lunch. The only person.
Wait. No, it's like the memory card is full.
Oh.
But no, just keep talking. I will give you this one. I have another memory card, but or wait. I can talk. That's fine.
And like everybody was on break. I was kind of lucky because the only my supervisor was still on the floor. He like brought me outside, got me some air, got me some water, and thankfully I was fine because it was such a small amount. Even like I think in a 500-liter order, like you're putting in like 20, 30 grams.
Yeah.
And it does its job more than enough, like, you know, because.
Why do you put this in? Is it like to make it like shelf life, or?
It's no. Like, so it's not just the flavor. They try to give you the sensation of eating whatever you're eating. Like, you know, when you're eating, like, say, apple, you want it to be like, say you're eating a green apple. You want it to be sour, but fresh, and it wants to have that tingling flavors and stuff. That tingling is a toxic. It's It's a thing called acetylde. It's a very, very toxic chemical. Like, it smells strange, and if you smell it, you're already fucking up because you're not supposed to smell it.
Yeah.
One of my main things when I first started working there, because I've got a very curious nose, hence all the ketamine and shit. I loved smelling all of these like new things because most of them are harmless to smell. Some of them are like not that great, but in small amounts it won't kill you. Like, you know, we have this thing called diacetyl, which is the essence of like buttery things, and diacetyl causes this thing called popcorn lung, which is like it just starts to form holes in your lungs if you breathe it in too long, like, you know. But you're smelling it and you're like, this shit smells really good, like. But it's like smelling petrol at the petrol station.
Oh yeah.
You do it.
It's a nice smell.
It's a nice smell, but
Yeah.
you really shouldn't do it. You know what I mean? That was, yeah. I think that's been the only 2 times that I've maybe died in there. But
Yeah.
no, that probably one of the best jobs, and like it still keeps. I still like. I have, even though I don't work for the company anymore, I still have access to their like. You can do like courses with them to kind of just improve your general knowledge about like different things that we use.
Yeah.
I still use it, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm gonna finish all of this shit, so at least like I get all the information that I need.
Yeah.
Because it's still interesting to me, like, you know, and I'm hoping to kind of keep going in that field. My plan is to kind of work for like the next couple of months and then start an engineering apprenticeship.
Okay, so you don't want to become a perfumist anymore? Or?
I do, yeah, but I want to. The one thing I realize now, where I'm like kind of close into my 30s, like I've a lot of working experience. I would consider myself academically challenged, but mechanically gifted. Like I can work with my hands and learn, and work quite well.
Yeah.
But just sitting in a college environment and having to learn like that, I can't. Like I don't have either the not the intelligence for it, but definitely not the attention. And I don't like the way things are taught here, because there's a whole lot of memorizing for very little application sometimes of the things that you've learned. I want to learn and apply, and then the whole learning process has a nice start, middle, and end, and then I can use this knowledge properly, as opposed to just learning off fucking books, and I'm only like using a bit of it at a later point when I've kind of forgotten most of it. Like, you know, I want to learn and then apply, and then I'm just improving what I'm already learning. Like, you know, I find that's a much better way to just learn in general, because it's useful learning rather than just, I don't know, being a fucking book of pointless facts. Like, you know?
Yeah, true. So you want to become an engineer to become a perfumist?
I want to become an engineer because I want to have a degree, something to kind of fall back upon. But the engineering degree, like, you know, I don't know if I want to go into something mechanical or electrical or chemical. Chemical and mechanical are the 2 things that kind of stand out to me. Chemical mainly because then I can go into a lot more perfume or process related areas. But mechanical and like electrical, because like I kind of like, as I said, I kind of want to do things that I'm passionate about. Cycling is another thing that I'm quite passionate about. And I've always thought like, oh, wouldn't it be great to like be I don't know, work for a bike company. Like, you know, there's like either like Cannondale, Canyon, all these sort of like big premium bike brands, like, you know, that are making innovations in the field, and like, you know, they have good teams and stuff like that for racing. They'd be good like places to work for and kind of to improve yourselves, like, you know. So far that's kind of the 2 avenues on what I would like to do.
Nice.
Going forward, cool, like food would have been another thing, but I love food too much for it to become something that I do that I end up not liking. Like working in a restaurant and stuff like that. Like I've done that, and people are just dicks in that high stress environment. Like, you know, and I get it. It's maybe a bit stressful, but you're fucking making food, dude. You're not fucking saving people's lives or anything like that. You need to chill out a bit, and you can work, but you don't need to. If you're stressed and you're taking that out on others, that's because you haven't got some of your shit together. That's usually what I've found out. If you have your shit together, you don't need to shout and fucking shout at other people to get shit done. Like, you know, it doesn't equate to that. But in an environment like that, I know it's never gonna be like that. I know I'm gonna start getting fucking mad at people as well, and then I'm gonna not want to cook when I come home. Like, you know.
Yeah.
I like cooking for groups of friends or whatever like that. There's no better feeling in it, like, you know what I mean? You have like fucking 15, 20 people coming over, and you're like, I'm gonna get really drunk and I'm gonna make a lot of food and everybody's gonna like this, you know?
Yeah. I can imagine, man. Oh, amazing. I have 2 small more questions, if you can keep going. So one thing is about you also said that you were selling LSD and DMT, and also ketamine is like all psychedelic drugs.
Yeah, ketamine. I wouldn't say it's a psychedelic. It's a dissociative.
I think somebody told me that because I was like, I'm interested in psychedelic drugs, like, and he was like, ketamine is maybe something you could start with. Like,
In,
but I don't
in
know.
terms of if you're trying to do psychedelics, I would say maybe do some fucking truffles or something.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
ketamine
yeah.
is not what you would do for a psychedelic experience. It seems like a very weird way.
Yeah.
It's like, say like you want to say you need to find a fast way to go to work, and you, instead of maybe cycling or getting the bus, you decide to make a tunnel under your house
Yeah.
and then go to the university. Sure, sometimes you will get to your destination, but it's a very long and confusing and convoluted way to do that. Like, you can trip, but it's not. It's very. I would consider it a bit more advanced tripping,
Yeah.
because, like, when you take standard psychedelics, you have the wow, I'm seeing some cool shit, like, and the visuals are there. With psychedelics, it's not. With ketamine, that's not how you're tripping. You're like, things are just warping, and your brain is just perceiving them weirdly. And then in the dark, like, you can see shapes and shit in the dark. It's not a pleasant, fun way to trip, especially as a beginner.
Yeah.
I would consider it very bad advice to somebody being like, you want to do ketamine for the ketamine effect, like doing a little bump, it makes you kind of feel drunk. It's not gonna, like, you need to do a considerable amount for you to get like psychedelic effects. And then as a new timer, that's a lot of ketamine to be doing, first of all. And also, that high is way more intense than if you just took some shrooms or did half a tab of LSD.
Yeah.
Ketamine would be like, advanced level of doing it to trip.
Yeah.
Is my humble opinion about it. Like,
Yeah. What experience did you have like with the other psychedelics, like LSD, DMT is like, I think
DMT? Oh man, I was only talking about this with my friend. First time I did DMT, I was like 18. I was on LSD as well.
On LSD doing DMT.
Yeah, I was like a friend of, my first girlfriend at the time. We were like doing a long distance relationship, and she had broken up with me like while I was on LSD. And I think she told me something like she didn't want to be with like a junkie or whatever. And I was like, what are you calling me a junkie for? While on LSD. Like, and I was like, in retrospect, it was kind of funny. But it was very hard to get. And me and my friend had managed to procure a little bit. And the first time I did it, it was like this huge spiritual feeling in my head of like, wow, I'm a changed man now. I see the world differently, and everything's so clear. And I really kept that fucking bullshit feeling going for a long time.
Yeah.
And I always maintained that, like, it's a very, like, all the other things are just drugs you do to have fun. But DMT, dude, the shit is serious. Like, gives you these life affirming thoughts and everything. Like, I even have a tattoo from a song that's after DMT. Like, you were asking, like, is it just for aesthetics or whatever? Most of my tattoos are. This is the only thing. I have 2 tattoos that have some kind of meaning behind it, and the DMT tattoo is one. And then after a couple of years, I met this guy, and we were able to buy DMT. So it was very hard to get back then. And so because of the scarcity and the rarity, anytime we did it, it had this huge feeling and meaning behind it. But then I made friends with this guy, and he would buy drugs online, like on the dark web. And I asked him one day, I was like, yo, can you get me some DMT? And he was like, yeah, how much? I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I've only ever had like less than a gram. And it was like, fucking 100 quid. He's like, I can get you like 14 grams for like €400. And I was like, what? Because that's so much for, like, if I'm paying €100 for
less than a gram.
For less than a gram. And this guy can give me 14 for 400, so like it's a very, very good deal. Like, I jumped on that shit straight away. And then I got it. The first day I got it, like, I was in my apartment, and it just comes in you buy candy, like Pop Rock candy. Mm-hmm. It's just like a packet, and you rip it, and there's candy inside. It's just like that's exactly what it came in. And I was just like, this is genius. Like, nobody's ever gonna catch this shit. And up until that point, as I said, I treated this with a lot of reverence and like,
like ceremony.
Yeah. then after I got like, because I had such a little amount of it, like I had to treat it like that. But now it's just like I can just do like bong hit after bong hit after bong hit after bong hit, and I think I had done like 7 or 8 bong hits in one day, and I was like, whoa, I'm like completely spent. I'm like, DMT is also the one thing that like I love to do, but I'm always hesitant about doing it before I do it, because it's very heavy on your mental. Like with other drugs, you're kind of like, yeah, I know I'm tripping because this shit just looks.
Yeah.
It doesn't look natural, like, you know. But DMT, it's not like they're just a thing over. You're like, say you take a bong hit, you're like here, and then you're like in a whole different planet. And I don't mean that in any exaggeration.
Yeah.
Nothing looks how it's supposed to. Nothing like comparing it to the other psychedelics, like with acid and stuff, you have like, you know, the room is kind of breathing, you have spirals, changing color hues. With this, no, dude, you're like, everything is fucking different, like very noticeably different. There was one time where I had done like, I think just under a gram in like one bong hit, whereas before it's like 0.125. I've always been very careful with the doses that I've been doing as well, because there's like threshold amounts like you can break through, and that's like you're going into a whole different space-time continuum of drugs, like, you know, your brain's just blah, blah, blah. And I did so much that I thought I died initially, because like I did it, I blew out the smoke, and I was like, oh fuck. And then I just like remember like passing out, and then I like woke up, and all I could see was like it was like a column of light. Like it looked like, you know, this cliche thing of like you're in a tunnel.
I see a tunnel. Yes, exactly.
Like don't go towards the light. And like it was like that, and there was like sections of light in it. And the song started to play, and I was like, what the fuck? Coming back to life. And I was like, oh, I thought I was dead, because when I like woke up, the back of my head felt really cold. Like, I don't know if you've ever had a head injury where you've bled. It feels cold when the blood comes in contact with the air. It just has this very interesting or distinctive cold feeling. And I was like, oh no, what happened? And the song started playing, and I'm like slowly coming back to like life. And I can hear my friend. He was there while I was doing this, and he was just like, Matthew, just sit down, you'll be fine. Just sit down, you'll be fine. And he keeps repeating this over and over and over again. And eventually, so I'm sitting there, and eventually I start to be able to see his face, because initially, as I said, I could only hear his voice, you know, and his head is kind of just floating around, only his head. And then I'm like looking around my living room. What used to be my living room is like now the floor of a game show. It's like, you know, one of these like Family Feud things, like it has like lights that's like on the floor and stuff. And I'm like walking around with my friend's head just like floating around, telling me, just relax, sit down, it'll all be fine. And I'm like, what? Why is my friend's head floating around? What's with the fucking game show things? Like, I'm very confused. Like, I don't understand why. First of all, I'm tripping balls so much. Yeah. I'm like, does this just happen to people? Like, do you just... Then I was like, is it because I've done acid before and I'm just getting a flashback? And I turned to my friend. I was like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Why am I tripping balls? And he starts laughing. He's like, bro, don't you remember you just smoked like a ton of DMT? And I was like, oh, okay. Now it's kind of making more sense. That thing, it was so hard to like get my head around it. Like, and then I went into my room to sit down, because I was like, I'm gonna sit down in the dark, turn off all the lights. I'm just gonna bleed this out of me. Like, you know, if I don't give it any stimulus, it doesn't have anything to fucking fuck around and change in my head and make me even more confused. And that kind of worked for like a little bit. But what was happening was like, I kept looking at something for a while, and then it would just shift. Like, the style of animation that everything was. Like, initially it was like claymation. Like, everybody looked like it was made out of fucking clay and moving like... And then everything was like, you know, this material that they have on children's playgrounds. It's like soft,
Yeah.
spongy, and it kind of looks like it's made out of tiles or jigsaw pieces.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it can fit in. Everything was made out of that. Like I was made out of that. My friend was made out of that. The walls, every surface, the TV, what was being shown on the TV was this fucking thing. And I was like, okay, I'm just having a dream. That's what this is. That's why it's just so hard to get my head around it. Because it's in a dream. Everything fucked up happens in a dream. And then I was just like, what do you do when you need to wake up from a dream? You just kill yourself. You kill yourself in a dream. You wake up in real life. So I told my friend, it's like, man, I'm going to jump off this fucking balcony. I am done with this. I'm sick of this.
No.
And he was like, dude, sit down. You'll be fine. And I was like, okay. Sat down. 30 seconds later, it was back to normal, like, you know. DMT is something that like
DMT is super fast, right?
yeah, man. They call it the businessman's drug because you can go take it on your lunch break. You smoke it for 15 minutes. You're on Mars, and then you come back, and it's not like any other psychedelic where you have this like washout period. Like you take it, you come up, you trip, you peak, you come down, and then it's like washing out of you. Like, you know, with DMT, it's like you're sober, you're on Mars, you're sober again, and there's no like in between of like it bleeding out. Once you're sober, and it doesn't like slowly. It just goes out, and that's the thing. It's very noticeable the onset. Like when you become high, you're like, whoa, you're just pulled into this world, like, you know. And then when you come out, you're like, did this even happen? Was this even happening?
Yeah.
So it's probably the most intense thing, probably the most fun thing as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably the one thing that like. Now, if somebody offered it to me, I'd probably do it. But there's always that hesitation.
Yeah.
Because you're like, this shit is just so mentally intense.
Like,
microphone.
You know? Microphone.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. But it's not for, I would have said it's not for like beginners or people that haven't done psychedelics. But like, I had a friend who smoked it with me here. And this girl was like, I think she's like 19 or something. Never done drugs in her life. The first thing that she did, this was a German girl as well. Fucking girl is a little bit crazy, not like in a just mentally fucked up, but she's like up for whatever, like, you know. And she was just like, this is the best thing that I've ever experienced in my life. Can we do some more of it? And I'm like, you need to calm down. That's how you have too much fun with something, like, you know. It's not like if you do it out of a bong, it's very intense, but you can smoke it out of a joint, and it's more. You're gradually pulled into it. Like it's how I can describe it. It's like you're here, somebody pulls you into it and then pulls you back, pushes you back.
Like
and then
whenever
every time you take a hit, you're like pulled a bit more. It feels almost physically that you're being pulled into it. Yeah. And then you take just the right amount, or like you've taken the appropriate amount when you're completely over the line. So there's like a threshold amount. If you don't do at least that much, you're not going to feel anything, like, you know. But if you do that bit, then you're like, whoa, I'm here. Up until that point, you're like being edged into it, like, you know. And then when you're there, you're like, this is fucking weird.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. One question, or one last question maybe. Did you ever? You also said about like unclean drugs, like when you have like dangerous drugs when they're like with some shit inside.
They're like, cut with whatever.
Did you ever encounter stuff like this, especially like when you were selling?
Yeah, like it mainly happens with coke. Yeah, coke is the main drug that's probably cut with things.
So it's like half flour, half coke, or something, or no?
You wish it was flour is what they were using. Like, I mean, I've never used coke that's given me a bad interaction. I've never sold coke that's had bad interaction, because mainly as well, like I buy most of my drugs from like people that I know, so they have a better understanding of what they're getting as well, and they're not the kind of shitty people to then mix it with shitty cheap cut like mixing ingredients, like, because getting coke that's cut is it's inevitable. You will never ever unless you're some Mexican cartel member, you're not going to get coke that's completely uncut. You don't know the right people for that to be a reality. The guy who brings it into the country and that sells it on, from that point on, it's cut. Because think about it. It's just, why wouldn't you do it? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, if you have like.
If you have a kilo of coke that costs fucking 27,000 euro or something, you can do half and half, and it's still good coke. And instead of making 27,000, or you're automatic, you pay 27,000 for that, so you're gonna make at least 40k off that. But now you double it, you can make 80k from that same one. Like, I don't need to. This is just basic business.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? But you like, and that's fine. Like, I've done coke where it's the very, very uncut, and you kind of don't like it. It's just quite intense. And because you kind of been used to like a little bit of a milder version of it, it's much more fun to do. You can sustain doing it. You can do bigger lines and not be like, oh, fucking get a heart attack, like, you know?
Yeah.
Like, getting really good coke, especially if you've just been used to like decent coke, you do the same amount, you're fucking having a heart attack, like, you know? And the quality of coke that would have been around Ireland, it's pretty good. Like, I've known some people to like cut it with like, well, I don't know what the worst thing. Like, I had friends that when they were selling it, like they cut it with like creatine and stuff like that, which is, creatine's not going to kill you if you do too much of it or whatever. But people use like borax, rat poison.
But why the fuck? You
I don't
killing
know.
your. This is so.
No, you don't know. Actually, borax is a pesticide. And you can sniff quite a lot of borax before something bad happens. You will sniff. I think the coke will kill you more than the borax will. But it's like a thing that looks like coke, like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Or they used to do with lidocaine, which is a dental anesthetic, or it just numbs your like throat and your tongue, like. And they used to think, oh, this is a sign that the coke is real good because it's numbing your mouth.
Yeah.
Like, pure coke is supposed to do that, but not how, like, you know when you got a lot of lidocaine, because you're like, my entire head feels numb, like, you know what I mean? This doesn't seem natural. I've had one guy that sold me, like, cut ketamine, and that's very rare. But, like, you could tell straight away, because you did a line, and you know what? He cut it with MSG. You know what MSG is? MSG, monosodium glutamate. It's like the essence of umami. It's used in Chinese cooking a lot, like.
So you do a line and you're like, why does it taste like meat?
Yeah, I was like, we had these snacks called rancheros. They were like bacon flavored snacks, and I was just like, why does my ketamine taste like chips, dude? Like, this is very fucking strange. And then you're like, this shit tastes real good, and ketamine tastes like shit. Yeah. That's why it's like kind of savory, salty, sweet, and you're like, oh, this tastes really good. But then you're like, this is supposed to be ketamine. This is not how it's supposed to fucking taste, like, you know. I had a guy once that like he was telling me probably like this is another good example of a honest businessman that I met while I was dealing. He was a guy that I used to get my ketamine and stuff off, and like I'd see him like quite regularly. Not him himself. It would usually be you call the guy and he would have one of his guys meet you. And I was meeting his dude, and like over the course of like 2 weeks, I'd gotten like about 500-600 euro worth of ketamine, and I noticed that each package was like progressively worse than the last. And I'm like, why is this shit just shit? Like, not that it was mixed with like, it was mixed with something, but something very unremarkable. It didn't do anything.
It didn't taste like umami.
It didn't taste like anything. It didn't do anything. It just made the ketamine weak as shit. And I'm like, but it also clogged up your nose quite a bit. So you're doing it, you're feeling a little bit high, but then you can't fucking breathe. You're like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I went to this dude. I was just like, yo, man, look, I never really complained to you or whatever, but like this last 2 weeks, everything that I've been getting has just been straight getting worse and worse and worse. And you like, look at what's happening. And he's like, yeah, you know, you're not the first person to have said that. I'm going to go have a look, like, you know. And then like 2 days later, I get a call from him. He's just like, yo, can you meet me? He told me a place to go to, and he didn't say anything else. And I was like, okay. Weird. I went down, and he was just like, well, first of all, I just want to say I'm sorry, like, you know. And I'm like, for what? He's just like, well, I went down after you called me because somebody else also said this. I went down and I found out that the guy, like my handler, he had sniffed a lot of the ketamine, and he was just mixing a bunch of shit with whatever he had left to sell it over, like, you know. So I fired him. He has to pay now all of that he's taken. And then he gave me all of the money that I'd spent so far, like in the last 2 weeks buying shitty ketamine. Gave it back to me. It was about 600 euro or something like
Whoa,
that.
damn.
And then he gave me everything that I had bought, but good ketamine.
For free.
Yeah.
What the?
Because he was like, for him, like this guy was quite a big sort of player, like, you know.
Yeah.
For him, he has a good reputation of what kind of business that he does. And it's not somebody that fucks around and is trying to rip you off or whatever. He's there for a long-term, consistent business and profits. Like, so he was like, look, I'm sorry that this has happened. This is how I can make it up to you. I can give you back your money. And ketamine wasn't like, if you're the level that he's at and how much he's buying, probably didn't cost him a whole lot of money. Probably was like 150 euro to him or something like that. So for him, it's like, take it, like, you know what I mean? If it ensures that you keep coming back to me as a result of this, because you can give me back the money. But then I'll be like, well, I don't know if the product is gonna get any better or it's gonna be the same. But if he gives me like shit that's like fucking top of the range, like it's perfect. I'm like, man, this guy has gone above and beyond how to how to rectify that situation, like, you know? And that's a very, very rare thing to get.
Yeah, especially in those circles.
In those circles, they're like, usually they just tell you to go fuck yourself, like, you know, be like, oh, the product shit. Yeah, what are you gonna do about it? Like, and you're like, you're right, I can't do anything about it. I'm just telling you, I'm hoping you're not gonna be a piece of shit. You're gonna be a little bit of a decent human being and like try to we work together. We're both being criminals together. Let's just fucking. Not make it harder for each other. We're both earning money out of this. Like, why are you trying to fuck me over? Like, you know. But he had a good head on his head about how to deal with people about this.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, yeah, it was fun.
That's really cool, bro. This was amazing. It was so
this
fucking
is
interesting.
like, how long
bro, I think we did 3 hours and 13 minutes now. This is my longest podcast yet. By the way.
Really?
But it was so fucking interesting. Like,
I have like a lot of stories that like. I'll give you one interesting. I used to sell to a barrister.
Go to the microphone again.
I used to sell to this lawyer
Yeah.
in Ireland. And his name, well, I won't tell you his name, but
Yeah,
I'll tell you how I used to save my clients down as. I would have their name, the client's name, and then the person that referred me to that person. So I have like a point of reference, almost like which Mr. A is this. Oh, this is Mr. A from Mrs. C.
Yeah.
So then I know where that person's coming from. Like, and if it's just my friend, well, then I know it's my friend. So I used to sell to this guy for like a year. I usually meet him outside, like not at his house or whatever. I'd always meet him like in a busy metro station. Not metro, we call them Lewis. They're like a tram stop.
Yeah.
Always at a busy one of this at lunchtime on a weekday. And he texted me on a Saturday once. He was like, hey, man, any chance I could see you today? I live, like, within the city centre, not too far away. Can you come down to the house and drop something down? And I was at home and I was going into town, so I was like, sure, wouldn't be that much of a problem. I went to his place, and I went in through the door. Like, so he lives in this apartment block, and he, like, picks me up. We're just talking. Everything's fine. I don't really know too much about this guy. I've only ever seen him very briefly, just to give him weed, but he's a lawyer. He's like, you know, educated, well-mannered, polite, kind person. Like, he's not the kind of person you should feel weird about.
Yeah.
And then I get into his apartment. It has like a long corridor, and then you walk through the corridor, and then you come into the living room. As I'm walking through the living room, right, or the corridor, he has a lot of artwork.
Yeah.
A lot of weird artwork. It's like semi-erotica artwork, but that's not the weird part. The people in it, they're all in Nazi uniforms.
And erotic Nazi.
Yeah.
What? Like girls?
Huh?
Girls in Nazi uniform?
No, guys and girls, like, you know. There's like one. I think I have a picture.
Yeah.
It was like a guy in like a full uniform, the swastika, the armband, and like he's holding this chick wearing like a red bra, and like she's got like red and black like lingerie set on or whatever. He's like holding her like this, and then there's like the eagle and the huge swastika in the background. It's like done in like 1940s style of art. But there's just a lot of like different pieces of this, and I was like, this is
weird.
This is very weird, like, you know. And then we're sitting down, and I didn't bring this up either. I don't know why. I don't know how. I didn't know what to say. I was like, I'm gonna be out of here.
I'm just gonna ignore.
I'm just gonna all of this, like. And we're sitting and talking, and then And at a point where I feel kind of calm, I'm like, okay, all right, whatever.
Still a normal person, yeah.
Yeah, he's fine, I guess. And then he's just like, hey man, I hope you don't take this in the wrong way, but can I suck your dick? And I was like, no, I'm not gay. And he's like, you don't have to do anything. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm not gay. This is kind of gay, like, you know. Also, you're like mid 30s, late 30s. I'm like 19 years old. It's kind of weird. Also, I'm here to just sell you weed. What are you doing? He's like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, I just thought like, because you don't have to do anything. Like, I just kind of wanted to do it to you. And I was like, no,
I'm fine.
I'm okay. And then that's like, I don't know. You can't go anywhere with after you say that. So I'm like, all right, guy, I'm gonna leave now. Yeah. So he's like, can I just buy some weed off you anyway? And I'm like, here. I just give him some weed, and I'm like, don't call me again. This is not appropriate, dude. Like, yeah. I feel a bit weirded out by this. Like, you know, I feel really weirded out by this. Yeah. And then I leave and I go to call. So, like, as I said, I have the guy's name and then the person who referenced me. And I go to call the person that referenced me. He's a good friend of mine. I was just like, oh, who the fuck? What the fuck is up with your man? Like, you know? And I started telling him about this. And then my friend is just like, who's this guy? And then I started describing this dude where I meet him and stuff. My friend is just like, I don't know this guy, dude. Yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's your friend. And he's like, I don't know anybody of that description, of that name doing this sort of thing. And I'm like, but why do I have your name down as this reference? And he's like, I don't fucking know. And I'm like, how did I even meet this guy to begin with? Like, you know? And then, yeah, I just blocked that dude and I never fucking...
So he just came into your life.
But I was dealing with him for like a year, like, you know what I mean, and everything had gone fine up until the only time I went inside into his house, and he was like, "Can I suck your dick?" And I'm like,
"What,
dude? What? No."
Amazing. Nice, man. Cool. You want to have another story? Or
okay, let me think. I was at a festival that I went to, and I saw the Prime Minister of Ireland. Well, we call him like the Taoiseach. Mm-hmm. Taoiseach? Yeah, the Taoiseach. Yeah. You have Taoiseach and Taoiseach. Taoiseach is like the chairman, but the Prime Minister is called the Taoiseach. There's a guy called Leo Varadkar, and he's a guy he's from my constituency. So like I've seen him like when I used to go to the gym and stuff. And I was at Body and Soul, and I was very, very, like, I had taken like a lot of acid to the point where the sky was just red. And I remember like I had sunglasses on because everything was bright, and I was like, well, this is just fucking doing nothing, like, you know what I mean? Like the color is just staying the same. And I was walking around with my friend and my girlfriend at the time, and this guy had like a small entourage, and I was like,
wait, what is an entourage?
Like he had like 4 security with him, like, and he was like, "This is the fucking Prime Minister of the country," but he's just there like in his little gay boat shorts and shoes and like little hat, and I was like, "What are you fucking doing here?" Like, it just seems so out of place for not any politician, but just the fucking head of the country, like, you know what I mean? At a fucking festival like this, and I remember like we walked around for a bit, and I sat down and I just couldn't get my head around.
You walked around with him?
No. I was just walking around with my friend. No, that would be weird.
That would be
weird. And I found a friend of mine, and I was just like, "Man, you won't believe who I just saw." And he was also on acid, and he was just like, "Let me guess. It was Leo Varadkar." I was like, "Dude, you in my head? What's going on?" He's like, "No, I saw him too." And I was like, "Oh, okay, all right. It wasn't just me. Like,
he's really here.
He's really here." Like, I exchanged email address with like a heroin dealer from a very back arse like county when I was at this festival as well. We just started chatting. We were like watching, like, it was the last set of the last day, and we were sitting at the top of this hill, just me and this dude, because all my friends were like down and about, and I was just very fucked up. And this guy comes over and starts chatting to me, and he's got a very thick country accent, like, and he just starts asking me about sort of shit, and then I start to do some coke, and he's just like, "Oh, here, put that away," and he pulls out his fucking small little sack of cocaine, and I'm like, "Why'd you need this much?" He's like, "Oh, you never know, like, you know," and I'm like.
True.
I mean, yes, but what do you? I don't know what you're trying to do that you never know that you need like this much cocaine, like, you know. And he's just like fucking putting his card into it and shoving it in my nose, and I'm like, dude, calm down. I don't really know you. I don't know if I should just be sniffing all of this cocaine off you. And then he starts to tell me about what he does, and he's just like, I mainly sell gear, like, which is heroin, and I'm like, because like there's two things that calls into my that they fall into the moral side of what I see with drugs, which is I'm not okay with it. Like coke or like heroin and meth. I'm kind of like these things are really bad. I know coke is quite bad, but heroin as well, it's very, very, very bad. So these are like they would have been it's like a frowned upon thing. You either sell all these other things or you sell heroin. And heroin dealers have a very bad reputation. Even normal dealers don't like them because you're selling misery.
Yeah.
Like, and that's it. Because people buying heroin aren't in a good place either. And they're doing it, they have nothing else. You're mainly just selling to like fucking crackheads and junkies and homeless people, like, you know. That's all. That's telling you all you need to know about it, like, you know. So I was a bit like, but no, it's already a bit fucked up. So I just kind of stayed talking to him.
Yeah.
And then when we were leaving, he was just like, "Here, you should take my details." I was just like, "Yeah, sure. Give us your phone number." He's like, "Oh, don't have phone numbers or anything like that. Here, take my email address down." I was like, "You sell heroin. You're from a countryside, backyards, middle of
just
nowhere.
gave me an
Your
email
address." How do I start? Like, whoever this may concern, like,
Dear Mr.
Yeah. I couldn't even remember his fucking name, like, but it was just the most ridiculous thing to hear from this kind of person. Like, you know, sorry, we can't exchange phone numbers. Here's my fucking fax number. Like, you know, I'm like, how do you do business? You send emails out being like, product there.
Dear Mr. I would like to have some coke. Sincerely.
Yeah. P.S.
Oh damn, nice.
I'll give you one more story. I was coming back from Berlin once, and I'd been out clubbing like the whole weekend, and I was fucked up when I had to like go for my flight, and I was. There's like two airports in Berlin at the time. I think they only have one now. There was like Schönefeld and Tegel. Tegel's the one in the city. And I was on the bus, and I was like, I was just hanging, like, you know, I had a hangover, my nose stuffy. I was like, oh, I need something to bring me out of this fucking hole that I'm in. And in my moment of weakness, I had a moment of brilliance, which was like, the only way to switch feeling like this is to switch to another feeling. You know what I mean? Don't just be a sucker and be stuck in this. So I thought the best thing to do would be to take some acid while I am on my way to the airport to catch a flight, and also very, very hungover. I
had acid with you?
Huh?
You had acid with you?
Yeah, like, so when I came over, like, I just bought acid with me, like, you know.
You just bring it from Ireland to Germany back to Ireland.
Yeah. But I mean, it's acid. It's just like pieces of paper. Like, you can just throw it in your wallet in a book. Sometimes I've even accidentally brought drugs with me because they're just in like pockets or whatever. Yeah. And you're like, you get to a new country and you're just like going through your pockets. You're like, oh shit. And so I took a tab on the bus to the airport. I had like a piece of gum in my mouth as well. So the tab kind of got mixed in with the gum, and then I just swallowed the gum. And I was like, oh, fuck. I don't think it's going to work now, like, you know, because you just need to let it like be in your mouth and let it dissolve, get the chemical absorbed. So I thought because it was covered in chewing gum and in my stomach, I've just wasted the tab. It's not going to do anything. Little did I know, it just worked, but it took a lot longer for it to kick in, like, you know? Yeah. Because my stomach hasn't had to, like, burn away at the gum to get it to expose. So I landed. So I was flying from Berlin to Frankfurt, Frankfurt back to Dublin. I got to Frankfurt and I was like, whoa. I was like really high, like very, very high. And somehow that filled me with this false sense of time and confidence. I was like, man, I've got a lot of time before my connection. I'm going to go have a cigarette. So I went and found a smoking area and I had a cigarette. And then I was walking in the direction that I thought was my gate. And like 10 minutes into the walk, I was like, let me just check my gate again. Check the gate number. I checked it on the wall and I was like, oh, my gate is that way. Like the other end of the airport. And also I got like 2 minutes till boarding closes.
Yeah.
So I ran for a long time and I'm like, I'm not gonna make it. I found one of these guys driving for like old people, disabled people and stuff like that. They've got like a cart within and I stopped the guy and I was like, please, man, please, can you bring me to here? It's so far away and I've been running for fucking 15 minutes already. Like, please, I'm gonna miss my flight. I got there quite late, and German people, when you're late, they're not happy, like, you know what I mean? They're like, what the fuck you doing, dude? Like, this flight was supposed to leave like 20 minutes ago. Yeah. And because it was, I'm sure if it was like Ryanair or whatever, the flight would have been gone, probably be in Dublin at that point. Yeah. This was Lufthansa. They might not be very happy, but they did wait, like, you know.
Yeah, they waited for you.
They waited for me because they've been calling out over the thing. Because when I got to the thing, they were still there. And I threw my phone, like, you have to go through a barrier where you scan your boarding pass. And the check-in attendants were behind that gate. I just got to the gate and I just throw my phone at them. And they're like, what the fuck? And I'm like, my boarding pass. And they're like, scan it. I was like, oh, yes. I get my phone back, I scan the code, the gate opens, I walk through, I go to check something on my phone dies. Dead. But I've managed to get through.
Holy shit.
That was very close. I show my ID, and then I get onto the flight, man. My seat was at the very back of the plane, like kind of the front. I'm late. The flight is now late.
So
they're waiting. They're waiting for me, and finally I get on, and I'm like, "Where's my seat?" Okay, I have my boarding pass. I walk down to the end, and I'm like, "Oh God, oh God, oh God!" And because I was late, we missed our taxi slot, your position in the line to take off, and we had to wait 2 hours. Because we got moved to the back of the line. And it's very, like, Frankfurt Airport is fucking busy, like, you know. Yeah. And while we're on the runway, not on the initial runway, it's like a secondary thing where you just kind of queue up till the main runway is clear and it's your turn. They were like, because it was very cold, they were like de-icing the wind. And I'm like very high at this point, you know. I'm like looking at the wind and it looks like they're spraying like liquid ice onto the wings. I was like, the fuck are they doing? Like, how am I gonna get off here? Yeah. And then I'm also sitting on the aisle seat and like whenever I'm looking up the thing, I can just see people like looking back at me, you know, and I'm like, oh man, they're really mad at me. Yeah. Oh, I'm not gonna get off this flight. They're gonna fucking kill me. We're on the air, like. But then like once the plane took off, I managed to like just fall asleep somehow. And then I woke up as we were landing. My taxi driver, he came and picked me up, and I was like, man, I've had the worst fucking 4 hours of my life. Like. Oh, yeah. No, that was the first and only time I did LSD on a flight. Yeah. I don't think I'd ever do it again.
Yeah. LSD, I thought acid. Wait, is it the same?
Yeah, it's the same thing. LSD, acid.
Okay. It's exactly the same?
Yeah, LSD is lysergic acid. LSD. Yeah, lysergic acid.
Yeah. Okay, acid is another word for LSD, yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, this stuff with the perfumes and stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
Does your nose still work?
Oh, yeah.
So you can still smell everything.
I'm also very lucky that I never... Well, I don't know if it's a long-term thing, but like I smell quite fine. Yeah. My sinuses aren't that fucked up. It's a little bit like... blocked at the moment, but like I still smell quite well, and it's not been that problematic or whatever. Like so, that like going into the future. I mean, like I don't think it needs to be. Well, I think it needs to be pretty good. I think it's like because I make perfumes at home.
Yeah,
like
that's cool.
Like I have a kit. with like base ingredients, and then I use the internet to kind of try and find recipes or formulate my own. And I can smell it. It smells fine. I've got a huge collection of perfumes as well, and I don't wear things that often, so my sense of smell like is always kind of figuring new things out. So I'm always smelling it, and I don't have the sort of. It's called olfactory habituation when you wear your perfume all the time, every day. Like you don't smell it after a while, you know.
Yeah.
But since I don't overburden myself with too many smells, anything I smell it pretty well. Like, you know. But
Nice.
I'm trying not to put things in my nose
Yeah.
anymore, even though it's pretty fun. Like,
Okay, man. I really fucking enjoyed this.
thank you
This
very
was
much for having
fucking
me. This is
amazing. So,
This has been a Rational Optimization podcast. I hope you learned something. Guys, I made something cool. On my website, I made a list with my favorite episodes. So if you haven't listened to all the episodes that I already made and you want to know where to start, like there, I listed like in the rank of how much I like them, all the episodes. And I regularly, like whenever there are new episodes that I really like, I update the list. The link is in the description. Enjoy.